Hello again, friends. This week, we played SIGNALIS, a sci-fi horror where you play as a cyborg exploring an underground mining facility that becomes increasingly surreal as you uncover the mystery surrounding it. It was released in 2022 after 8 years of development by Rose Engine, a team of only 2 developers. Please be aware that our discussion involves in-depth topics of the narrative. There will be spoilers throughout. There will also be some light spoilers of Claire Obscure. With all of that out of the way, enjoy the episode. This week we played SIGNALIS. I chose this game. I found it randomly. I don't remember how, in a Reddit comment thread. I watched the trailer, which just showed a number of scenes from the prologue, and I was like, this game looks really cool. And not to spoil too much of my the rest of my opinion, but the rest of the game was also pretty cool. And so we don't have to spend too long on this intro topic that I wrote, but what I wrote down, the question I wanted to ask you guys, what would your bioresonance shape your environment to be like if you were as powerful as Ariane?
So I spent a lot of time thinking about answers to questions that were not this, and I sort of forgot about it until now. So what I'm going to say is my bioresonant reality would just be an infinite dark drive-in theater with every imaginable horror movie playing on every screen at the same time, and a really badass concession stand.
Badass concession stand is a good aspect of that.
Yeah, probably an arcade too, with a bunch of pinball machines. I'm basically just describing the drive-in that Mary and I go to.
Is it like the shitty movie theater arcade, or is it going to be like a full-fledged arcade?
Oh, it's gotta be full-fledged. Like, if I'm gonna be like a reality warping dreamer, then I'm not gonna spare any expense. That's crazy.
I'm curious for Ben how many massage chairs would be in your reality.
I just need the one.
It would just be one room with a massage chair.
Yeah, exactly.
What about you, Jordan?
I think it'd be like a Silk Song Rule 34 repository website, so we can get everybody in like horny purgatory.
Fucking God. My eternal hell. Your reality is my hell. Thank you.
I mean, that's the point.
Can it just be like a bunch of like tiled like hornet butt cheeks in the skybox at all
I'm putting
times?
it in the B-roll for sure.
God damn.
Fucking demonetized already.
You're
I'm
gonna have
not
like,
gonna make. I'm not gonna make my
money.
3 pennies.
basically just think of it like the Nowhere, where there's like the boxes in the background, like the 9 boxes, and then instead of that, it's just all hornets butt cheeks. I'll Photoshop it later.
Okay, I appreciate that.
The caged thing would just be fucking, I don't know, laces asses conglomerated. I don't know.
I mean, why discriminate? We can just have like an alternating tile of hornet and hornet ass lace thickness, just on and on out into infinity.
I think that my reality would be pretty similar to the fleshy parts of Nowhere, except it more closely resembles a GI tract. And there's probably some compacted poop there at the end.
What the hell? I do not want to go to your bioresonant cascade.
The problem is, even if I was as powerful as Ariane, I don't think that I would have much control over it on account of the brain.
I mean, you just have to imagine whatever your like repressed like traumas that you don't want to deal with are, and that's going to be what your bioresonant paradise is going to be.
And that's why it would just be a fleshy GI tract.
But that sounds more like it's at the front of your conscious mind because you can't poop.
That's true. It is. Pooping is always on my mind.
It's important.
All right, let's just jump into it. I don't know where we want to start. Who's got some hot takes they want to start with? This game was fucking crazy. I thought this game was great.
I'm gonna pop off on this fucking game if you let me, and the whiplash will be biblical. There are things I liked about this game, but I think the primary thing about this game, at least to me, was the story. So how do I feel about the story of Signalis? Where's the payoff? Like, can you please put the payoff in the fucking bag? I don't think that's an unreasonable ask to ask from a piece of entertainment media because it's supposed to like entertain, not have prerequisite coursework just so I can understand the story at a baseline level. With the level of commitment that the game is asking of me just to understand and appreciate it, the more badass that payoff needs to be in order for me to not be pissed off at the end of it. And the problem with Signals is not that the payoff is bad, the payoff doesn't fucking exist. I could tell right away after watching the ending that even if I watch an 8 hour video about the story and comb through a bunch of wiki articles, there's a literal 0% chance that that would magically make me be like, oh, I love the story now. Nah, that's not gonna happen. I know that because of the ending itself, where literally nothing happens that makes me feel anything at all. That's why I didn't bother doing the homework that the game assigned to me. The endings to other games like Planescape Torment and both Niers were cool as fuck, and just the act of playing the game alone let me enjoy them. Games like that I'll watch multiple hour retrospectives on because the characters and events in both those games were cool as fuck and made me want to learn everything about them. Signalis does not even come close to eliciting that kind of response from me. Because unlike Planescape and Nier, there was no cool shit happening in Signalis. The visuals were cool as fuck, but what the visuals were depicting were not cool. They were just confusing, and I felt nothing watching them. I don't care at all about the white noise drama of these characters, because I can't even remember their fucking names. Like, whenever I saw a character appear on the screen, like, all the way up to the very end of the game, I'd be like, whose bitch is this? Like, it's gonna be real hard for me to get... I'm not gonna, like, care about a character when my reaction to seeing them on the screen is like, which bitch is this again that only had 3 lines of dialogue in the whole fucking game? They all look the same. And that's it. That's it. That's just the pop off.
Oh shit, that's fucking based.
Not what I expected.
I feel the complete and polar opposite. That's
I'm
sick.
sure all you
Same.
guys do, but I'm just being the mole person representative, and that's just how I reacted to the game.
Yeah, this is giving me
Just
real
to-
like Expedition 33
Yeah.
analogs.
Just to set the context, which ending did you get?
I didn't even know there was more than one. I don't even care that
There's
there was more than
four.
one. I just got whichever one is one of the characters just crawls up to an ice bath and dies.
We all got memory.
Okay, okay, cool.
Yeah, there's 4 different endings, and really only one of them is like, I struggle to call it a happy ending, but that's probably the closest thing to a happy ending.
Yeah, but I don't need a happy ending to be happy. I just need it to be satisfying. Like Planescape and Torment and both Niers, none of those endings I would define as happy, but they were badass.
Well, sure. I guess I do more mean like satisfying more so than happy, because it's not happy. Like the one I'm thinking of, you literally choke Ariane to death, but it
That
like,
wouldn't make me
ends-
happy either, because I wouldn't
it
even
ends the loop.
like all these characters appear on screen. I don't even remember who they are, like literally at all.
I mean, that's a hard one because I think the game does a really good job of characterizing all of them like very well, but you do have to like go through the pains of like reading every document and transcript and all that shit.
Yeah, and I did. I wouldn't say that I like sat there and tried to like really understand them, but I looked at every single one of them, and like the shit was just so dry, and I felt like, I mean, it was intentional that they were written that way, but like if you show me like scientific papers in real life, I don't want to read them either. So I don't want to read them in the game.
Well, let me kind of echo something that I think is in what you're saying, because I did love this game like a lot, and I'm gonna do a lot of love for this game during this talk, I'm sure. But there was one level of disappointment that I think I had, and I remember distinctly feeling it in, I guess you would call it Act 3 when you're in Rotfront and you're doing the tarot card puzzle. I had this thought um, when I first got to the tarot table that I was going to have to like display some level of understanding of each of the planets and what's going on at each of them, and like kind of understand what's going on in order to actually solve that puzzle. And then I was a little disappointed when all of the answers to it were literally just on the diary
Yeah,
right
in the
next to
book.
that table. And if it's not clear how I'm echoing that in that sense of what you're saying, Ben, I feel like this game, even though it has a painstakingly beautiful narrative, visuals, etc., that all come together really nicely, it never really asks you to understand any of it before the ending just happens.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I experienced.
So I guess I take a different approach to that because I think that the ending makes sense for what the game is, but you do absolutely positively have to take like a very academic fucking magnifying glass approach to the narrative in order to like I guess get that.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like that's what the developers expected of their target audience. The problem is I'm not in that target audience, and I don't think they should change the game for just me. That would just make the game worse for everyone that loves it, like you guys. But whatever they made, I don't fucking like it.
Yeah, like I think there's a reason that there's so much allusion and reference and so on to like works of art and works of literature and like scientific papers and well-known scientists and all this shit, because like this game very much to me felt like I was reading like fucking Brothers Karamazov or something. Like I really had to I didn't quite do this as I was playing, but more so like as I was doing some research after the fact of like feeling like I really needed to focus to understand everything that I don't get outside of areas like great works of art.
So I have like a whole long diatribe for what I think this game was supposed to be, like almost from the word jump, which is that this game is literally just a distillation of Jungian psychology in a lot of ways. Like I said, I have this whole big thing that I'll read at some point here. And I think for me, once I realized that right away, because chapter one is literally called synchronicity, my brain was just in that space where a lot of like the illusion and allegory was a lot easier to fit together just because I could tell like bam right away what the game was trying to do, which made it a lot easier to like backfill some of the like metaphor and like especially insofar as like visual metaphor is concerned with the game. Whereas I think if like you're not a homo who reads stupid shit like that for fun and you're just going through it and it's just this like confusing abstract mess, then yeah, I can definitely see where it would get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, for sure. Because like if I had already internalized knowledge of Jungian psychology, I would have like picked up on that, but I didn't. So I just ran like the way that I always do. I just ran face first in the game, just taking everything at face value. And if you do that in this game, you're just gonna get fucking nothing out of it.
Yeah, so this is interesting. So this we can just talk about this shit now because it segues perfectly. In like, I did expect all four of us to like the narrative of this game, so I'm actually glad that Ben doesn't. And so for the so Ben is consistent on this, which makes sense to me. So I guess the question that I want to pose to you, Jordan, and you, Seth, is um, again, my vibe here is that you guys do like the game. I mean, Jordan hasn't opened his mouth to express one way or the other, but my guess is that he does. And so, what is like the differentiator in this game, or like the canvas that this game gives you to like basically shove in front of your face and say, figure it out, that you guys liked about this versus the games that we absolutely said we did not like, i.e., Edith Finch, i.e., Hello Charlotte, at least for you guys? I fucking love that game. But, like, what's the difference between this game and those games, and why did it work here versus the other ones?
I just think this game, the easiest way to boil that down is like this game is just like a little more interesting, and like most things are there, and then you just kind of have to, you could like fill in the blanks yourself with like theories of what's going on, but like clearly they wrote the game with like a certain thing in mind, but then they just kind of don't tell you everything. I think it really just comes down to a thing of like interest and the amount of details that they give you.
I think for me, and haha, this might give away some aspect of my score, but that's fine. Um, to compare this to a game like Outer Wilds, Outer Wilds is like if you're just going in and you know nothing about it, and you're just kind of stuck in this time loop, and you're running around and exploring, and oh, supernova, okay, cool, and then you like log off, then it's going to be a really bad experience. And I think that Signalis and Outer Wilds have at least one thing in common, and that is that you have to piece everything together. And not only that, but uh, everything like does have an answer. It might not be a concrete answer, but there are many functional interpretations that you could tell that the developers had in mind. The difference between this game and Outer Wilds is that Outer Wilds is very concrete in what it's trying to tell. Signalis is a bit more open because things are by definition for this game's entire setting is that everything is extremely abstract. But after like reading up on everything and like checking myself on the lore, I feel like this game is telling a very cohesive story, like a very, very, very cohesive and tied together in very thematic ways that what have I said in every episode so far? I like when they go with an idea and they stick with it. And I felt that through every pore of this game. They had an idea and they stayed true to that vision, I think, throughout, with maybe some exceptions in the gameplay that I'm sure we'll talk about. But I would say that's the big difference, in my opinion, of this game versus some of the older games we've talked about. Is this game is consistent from beginning to end with no hesitation.
Yeah, and that's interesting for me. Do you have anything you want to chime in with there, Ben? I know that the question doesn't really apply to you since you just fucking hate it all, which makes you consistent.
There are a few things I liked about the game. Emphasis on few. The only thing I can really say that is that I think I enjoyed games like Hello Charlotte, and especially something like 1,000 X Resist like a billion times more than the story of this game.
Yeah, why?
Because like I guess 1,000 X Resist is maybe I don't know if it's like directly comparable, but there are some like things that are similar. But like I guess the way I think about it is like the proportion of or the ratio of like deep philosophical intellectual shit versus mole people shit, like just emotional beats that people can easily resonate with. So if we like look at the ratios of those two things with like 1,000 X Resist, the ratio would be like 6-4 or maybe 7-3, whereas the ratio for Signalis is 10-0, straight up. And that's why I can't get attached or anchored to anything in this game.
Was there not a single moment where you like had a reaction in that one?
Maybe like the lesbian scene, but not really, no.
So that's interesting for me because I felt like from the very beginning, like a sort of emotional attachment to at least Elster, because even though you don't necessarily know who she is, like all of the theories I had running through my head about who the replicas were, excuse me, not the replicas, but the gestalts, had me like very intrigued. So it might not be like an emotional, like I want this person to succeed on their hero's journey quest as much as it was like an emotional response as far as like the underlying intrigue was concerned, if that makes sense.
Well, you just saying Elster just reminded me of something else. I didn't even know what her name was until more than halfway through the game, and I think it would have served the story better. I don't know if like she just talked more, even just to herself, like monologues, just so I can see the subtitles with her name written on it, and be able to remember the main character's fucking name.
I don't know, they tell you her name a lot of times, dude. I think that one's on you.
I disagree entirely. And Ariane, I had no idea that was her name at all until after I beat the game and I looked it up. It's like, what's the white-haired bitch's name? I had to look it up because like I just can't with these characters in this whole game.
Well, I think also, like to kind of elucidate what Ben is saying, Thomas, we were talking in our Discord chat earlier about like how many different variants of Elster do you play in that game or in this game, and I think that's part of what is leading to that confusion is you never really know if you're playing the same character for each chapter.
I think it's pretty self-evident, like when you're playing the same one. It can be tricky to figure out when the switch is, because I think at some point there's a switch. I think you play two different Elsters, and finding where that point is a little tricky, but I don't know. I don't know. I feel like the game like spams like the word Elster in your face an awful lot. In cutscenes, even it'll say like Elster 252.
I think a reason why I like the story of this game a lot is because it's the opposite of a Marvel movie. And when a Marvel movie makes sure no one misses it, this game says, hey, if you want it, you got it. And if you don't, you don't. Like it doesn't try to throw anything in your face.
Yeah, I'm the other side of that coin. If it was written like a Marvel movie, I would have liked this story a lot more.
Yeah, I would have fucking hated it.
I think in a lot of games and media that I like, I'm not like the smartest person in the world. Like I did not have a decent, I did not even have a decent grasp of understanding of this game when I beat it. I could just tell that it was being presented in a loving way and that they like had something going there, but I really didn't understand all that much. But if there's anything consistent in like media that I like, I just like being challenged, whether it's like, the open canvas of Outer Wilds or it's like mechanical challenges like in World of Warcraft or like literature that I've read, like Brothers Karamazov or Dostoevsky generally. And I felt like this game very much. I don't have to say it. I think this game seeks to challenge you. I think, and I like.
Yeah, like for me, I value a certain degree of like independent thought and like independent conclusions in a lot of ways. Like that's a big reason why I didn't want to watch any videos. I didn't even open the fucking wiki for this game. Like all of my opinions about the narrative of this game are going to be raw dog, straight from my own brain, outside of whatever we may have talked about in the Discord channel. And like that's why I like games like this, because it really forces me to unravel a puzzle. And God knows I am a fucking puzzle gamer, puzzle minded, puzzle coded fucking goober top to bottom. And so with a game like this, where there's so many like references to outside literature and outside movies and other games and like all this other shit, and it layers it kind of underneath these academic concepts. Like to me, just fucking love that shit, because I just love trying to unravel that puzzle and figure out, okay, what is this game trying to say? And I try to figure out what something like this is trying to say before I figure out like what it's about, right? Because I feel like if you're trying to, if you figure out what a game is trying to say, it makes it easier to figure out what it's about. Like you can retrofit a lot easier. And so with a game like this, it's just way more fun to me to just try and again solve that puzzle on my own. Like it's 80% of what I enjoy about a game like this is just trying to figure it out on my own.
Well, as someone that guides like every puzzle in every game, I don't like the fact that the story is also a fucking puzzle.
Yeah, I can
That,
tell.
but that like goes back to the issue I was saying originally, though, is I feel like this game would have been better if there was a puzzle that asked you to understand the narrative, or like something where it's testing you on your understanding of the game. Like, because even for someone like me or Ben that might use a guide every now and then, or for the entire game sometimes, even if we have to look up the answers to a puzzle that is showing our understanding, we're still gaining understanding by virtue of looking up the
Looking it
answers to
up.
that
Yeah,
puzzle.
I actually agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of my biggest criticisms with the game is that the puzzles are too dumb. Like, I wish that it was like true La Milana shit of like you had to take notes of something that happened the first time, and then after you get to the nowhere, if you didn't take a note of it, then you're just fucked or something like that. Like, I
And
wish it was a lot more
bro,
go fuck yourself.
they had the idea, like it was there. Like I remember so distinctly. I got to the it was a room in Act 3 where it showed the chalkboard with Pareidola on it, and that just tells you the answer to the safe that is in that room.
Yeah,
Like why couldn't that chalkboard have just been in a different room? It would have been perfect.
Yeah, I agree. I think like kind of holistically the game did a pretty good job with the puzzles. I thought like for the most part I think like there's way too many fucking go here, get this key, run back, do this, that I think the game sort of treats as puzzles, which obviously aren't. They're just annoying fetch quests, but like when the game does ask you to use your brain, I feel like it did it pretty well. I don't know if it needed to pile on any more like obtuse shit into what is
That's
already a
fair.
pretty obtuse game.
I mean, I would have liked it more.
I think I would have too, but I think that I would have disliked some of the other aspects that I disliked about the game already more. Like some of the combat in the game would have been way worse if you were like constantly running around between
Yeah.
every room,
Yeah, that's fucking true actually. If you had to run around like this was La Mulana, just like clueless trying to figure shit out, that would have been really frustrating.
Yeah, you probably like have to change that. which I imagine that they probably would have if they wanted to do that, but they didn't want to do that. But yeah.
Yeah, and I'll never argue against making puzzles more obtuse. I fucking like. I mean, I obviously love that shit, but I can see why they didn't go that angle with this game.
The coolest part of Obtuse Puzzles is the artifact ending, if you know what that is, Tom.
I don't know the names. I just watched a video that showed me all 4 videos, but it didn't say what the names of them were.
The artifact is the secret one that you can only do on a second run, and it's like the most confusing one. It's the one where you put the lily on a pedestal and it zooms out and there's 6 dead Elsters and there's that weird artifact in the middle of it, like a grave.
Oh yeah, the one where you like become God, basically.
I don't know. That ending eludes me as to what the fuck's going on, really.
I assumed the way that I read into it is that like essentially you are becoming the king in yellow. I think that's at least the interpretation I applied to it anyway.
There's something with the artifact, and there's like a thing in the King of Yellow where they paint a flower with like some opal shit, and then it becomes something. Like the artifact has something to do with that. I think the best ending, it's supposed to be the most resolved ending, is like probably the toughest ending to get. Well, besides Artifact, because Artifact is a really weird ending. But Promise ending is an ending where like you choke her out, but you need to be super aggressive in your playthrough, and like you're basically not going to get that on a first run through. But I think if somehow Ben did get that, I think he would like it a little bit better because it's a lot more resolved. The memory ending
But
and the
how
leave
would that
ending.
make me like the game more?
I didn't
Oh
say
wait, that's the ending.
well,
I got.
mean, you would like the game more. I don't know if it would make you like the game, but it's a more resolved ending.
If you didn't engage with the characters or the narrative on any level that made you appreciate it up to the ending, I don't think there is an ending that would change
That's
your
what I'm
mind.
saying.
I think if there's anything, it's Promise, because Promise is like you would at least understand that like you remember the Promise. When you get there, Ariane isn't like, "Who are you?" Like it would be like, "Oh hey, what's up?" And then like you fucking kill her, and it's like an emotional thing. Like I think you would like it more. I don't think you would like the game.
Yeah, no,
I guess
I
that's fair. I'd
got
have to
the.
see it just to make sure, but I like just my gut feeling is that it wouldn't change anything for me, but maybe.
Yeah, I got the promise ending, and like I said, I didn't have a great understanding when I beat the game, but it did give that level of finality that you're describing. Like, even if I didn't understand all the specifics, I felt like I was being called there to do something, and it's kind of a reveal that I was called there to kill her because of like some of the notes that you see leading up to it, where she just wanted to die and everything. Like, even if you don't have a full understanding, you know that she's kind of the source of everything, you know?
And you know that there's a promise, and you know that you're fulfilling the promise. Versus when you get there in the memory ending, and you didn't like fully synchronize with the original Elster unit. So then that way, like you're just like, I don't know why I'm here. Ariane's like, I don't know who you are, and then you're like, I'm just gonna sleep here. Like it doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't. It's not supposed to give you a feeling of resolution because that's a failure state ending.
You want to make me play a game for 10 hours and get a failure ending? And if I want to get another ending, I have to play the game again?
If it doesn't resonate with you, it doesn't resonate with you.
Yeah, I mean, there's the endings had no shot for you, so
Yeah, I think it's the kind of thing where like if you're in love with the game, you might because it's like a fairly short experience. It's like only 8 hours on a first playthrough. And so like if you're really interested in the game and by definition there's a little bit of like a time loop situation going on, or at least an implied one, replaying through the game means you're going to pick up on a lot of stuff that you missed the first time through. And that does make me kind of glad that there's multiple endings in that way, even if like I personally probably wouldn't do it. The one thing I do think this game really needed though is something to auto translate all of the languages, just as I don't even know if it's like an accessibility thing, but like if you beat the game once and I play through it a second time, just let me read that shit. Don't make me have to have a YouTube video pulled up so I can actually see what it's saying.
yeah, I agree with that. I was gonna say, I mean, I like it the first time, but yeah, if you replay it, I would mind some like subtitles or something.
How did you guys feel about the several different languages that were used? What is it? Chinese, German, and English? Are those the three?
Yeah, I think so.
If they were subtitled, I would have liked it a lot more.
I didn't really understand the purpose of it necessarily. Like, at least like insofar of my understanding of the game's like story and themes, I don't really know what it added. Especially the Chinese part of it. Like the German, okay, maybe. because like the different like World War II signals and the magpie and all that stuff, like I can get German contributing, but the Chinese shit just seemed like it was a little egregious.
I think thematically what it's doing is it's kind of doing a lot of what Nier and Automata did. Um, in the sense of like the Tower of Babel situation of not being able to understand each other, because there's the one note that says something to the effect of like it's like from the Yusin nation, and it says something to the effect of a perfect language creates a perfect society. So it's either the use of three languages in this game is either implying an untruth to that, or it's implying that like what's going on right now is particularly bad. No one can understand each other. There is confusion. And I think it also helps add to the broader abstractedness of like you never really feel like you're supposed to be where you're at because you're in someone else's dream.
Yeah, that is interesting because like the game definitely does have a lot of like I guess things to say about like cultural fragmentation and oppression to a degree. So I can see why including multiple languages could at least help with that. But I think for that to really have landed, they should have probably leaned a little more into like the Yusan Empire conflict stuff that was going on. But what you're saying makes sense.
I struggle to believe it's anything more than trying to obfuscate things behind like not understanding. I think it's just there to make you like want to look for it later. The game is the idea is that it's like government footage that you're watching or something, right? That you're watching through like the cameras that are recording Elster as you're running around, and like there could be like a way that you could think of like different governments give you different languages through that, but like none of that's portrayed at all, and that would just be like super fringe theory shit. So I think it's kind of just trying to make things more confusing.
I mean, I think one of the big things is that it's all like very diegetic. Like this is the setting that they have. Maybe outside of Chinese, kind of like Thomas was saying. Like obviously, all the use of the German language is very intentional for the setting that they're in. But again, yeah, I just go back to I think it's just adding to that dreamlike quality of like you have something in front of you but you can't read it, you can't understand it, like you might have to interpret a dream. Rather, you have to look at everything surrounding the text that you can't read to try and understand what it's saying.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I think it lies somewhere like in the middle of what both of you guys are saying, and I also think that there's probably a factor of the people that made this game obviously loved Evangelion and Ghost in the Shell, and they just wanted to put some fucking kanji in there. I know it's Chinese, but I could read some of it, so
I think it's also cooler to tile die on the screen in kanji than it is to just write the word die,
yeah, true.
or to quote the Book of Revelations and do it in German instead of English. I think things like that just kind of add like a cool factor to people who reach out and figure it out.
Yeah, I like the German. I think the German inclusion was pretty great actually. I think it's just the Chinese part of it that sort of like tipped the scales into something that was just like, did you really have to do that? Did you really need three?
Yeah, I think it was just to make sure that like if like let's say you're German and you're playing the game, there's still things that they could obfuscate behind the Chinese language, right? Because who the fuck speaks English, German, and Chinese?
Yeah, fair enough. Let's talk about some of the gameplay shit. So, how do you guys feel about the inventory? Let's kick it off there.
Turn on the ovens. I just hate the way that they handled inventory management, or I guess encumbrance, whatever, which way you wanted to call it. The way I'm not like against encumbrance or inventory management, but there's like different ways to do it, and the way they did it did not appeal to me. Like the ways that I like it are like primarily it's like Dark Souls where you have the Estus flask, and I know it's kind of weird to think of that as an encumbrance, but it pretty much is. It's just not really weight that's being measured, but just the amount of resources that you can expend before you get to a point where you can replenish it. Something that's a little more analogous to this game is maybe something like the way that CRPGs do it, where you have a carry weight based on your strength, and I like that a little bit less than the Dark Souls one, but I still like it because it gives like a little bit of choice and consequence to your character build, where like the amount of your strength actually dictates like how you play the rest of the game. So even though I don't like it because it still leans into the negative aspects of inventory management where you have to stop gameplay to go into a menu, that's the part that I hate about the most. I still like that there is like some choice and consequence and your character build is relevant. Whereas in this game, they just chose like the worst of every possible world, and I don't know. Maybe we should talk about how you guys feel about it instead.
Well, let me put it this way. I feel like they were. I don't quite know what the goal was exactly by having the inventory system this way, but my vibe, and I can't. I'm gonna have a hard time explaining this. My vibe is that they were successful in whatever their goal was with the inventory system. I'll say that much. But what I might ask you guys later after this is like, why is the inventory system even in this game? What does it add?
It's
Um,
just to make it like Resident Evil. I bet that's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, for sure.
And basically, what I mean is they can eat my shit.
I
like,
think.
is it just homage? Is that it?
I mean, I don't know if
What
it's
else is
homage.
there?
I mean, it's definitely just lifting because I mean, Resident Evil has the exact same mechanic, right? Like carbon copied, like even down to the number of slots. I think.
Yeah, but like you're constructing a game, you don't have to copy a different game. Like, why is it in
Yeah,
this
but they
game?
did.
That's yeah. Hence why I'm saying it's homage. I think for me anyway, I think the inventory system would have worked if they had actually gone down to like four, like maybe even three, just to be contrarian inventory slots, but made it so that none of the key items that you have to carry around actually contribute to that number, because the inventory system never really bothered me too much, I'll say. There were like times where I was frustrated with it, but most of those times were when the game was asking me to go slot like 6 keys into a door. And it's like, well, what the fuck? I have 6 inventory slots and each one of these keys takes up one. Like, why am I having to fucking ferry back and forth between the save rooms? Like, this is just fucking stupid. So it definitely doesn't work there, which is why I say if they had just gone down a number of inventory slots and made it so that all of the keys and quest items and key items or whatever did not contribute to that number, but you still have like an even more limited inventory for the purpose of what they're trying to do, which is build tension through scarcity, which is like the whole fucking philosophy of this game's gameplay. I think it would have worked a lot better for me in every single imaginable way, to be honest.
I agree. I think we had already discussed that in Discord, but yeah, that's basically the way I would see it too, where you just basically only use the inventory slots for the resource management and not for puzzle solving.
Yeah, I think like I said this in Discord, like I think any game where a key card is the same size in your inventory as a shotgun is just like that ain't it. Like, what are you doing? And in a game as diegetic as this one, it adds additional layers of confusion for me. Because like take a game like Automata, which, you know, this game came out after Automata didn't by like several years, right? And like it's a similar situation. You're playing a cyborg and you have like your program limit in that game that changes based on like the power and type of equipment, quote unquote, that you're putting on. And to just have that comparison in my mind as I was playing this game, I was just confused by the decision. It's so weird.
In fact, I just had a Tom Director's Cut idea while I was just sitting here that I have not put any thought into, but I feel like they could have just totally axed the entire inventory system and just had it to where you could have a sidearm, like the pistol or the revolver, and then like a primary gun, like the shotgun or the rifle or whatever, and then one like equipment slot, kind of like how they already have it, where you could have like your auto injector, your stun prod, or whatever, and then just like fuck off with the rest of the inventory. Maybe
And
give you like a cap of how many like repair kits you could hold on to or whatever.
yeah,
And
like Estus.
Yeah, pretty much, and then just like have all the key items go into a fucking what the hell's it called? A Gucci bag across your waist or whatever.
Yeah, that would be nice, and that way, like, you still have the scarcity because you can only have one of each type of weapon, and if
Yeah.
you find a new one, you have to drop the old one.
Yeah, and you're still like ammo limited, which is
Yeah.
like the thing that makes you switch weapons in and out in the first place is like whatever you like want to expend the ammo for.
I mean, I wouldn't really change anything. It feels like they had like kind of a full vision. Like, I don't think it's fun, but at the same time, like, I don't know, like it's fine. I don't think the game. I think the game would be like worse if it was like a walking simulator. But I don't think the limited inventory is particularly great. I don't know. I think also it's like old game pilled, kind of like Silksong was, where it's just using old mechanics, and we're not patient enough gamers anymore in 2025 to appreciate things like that. So I don't know.
I mean, I don't think that what we were describing would make it a fucking walking sim. It would cut down on the amount that I have to just do tedious nonsense, which is like put 3 things in a crate, put 3 tarot cards in my inventory, run to the table, put 3 tarot cards on, run back to the save room, put 3 tarot cards in my inventory, put 3 tarot cards onto the table, run back, fill out my inventory with the shit that I want, and then go back and do the puzzle. Like that's the thing that I'm trying to get rid of. Anything else outside of that, I don't really care about. But it's that specific instance, which happens 3 or 4 times in the game, which is where I really felt the burn of how stupid the inventory system was.
And you know that the developers knew it was a problem because they put those what are like the storage chests in those specific spots for that reason. So they knew that it was bad, but they just that was their solution, and it kind of burns me.
Like here's my thing with it is like I really didn't love it, kind of like Sesh said. Like it's not doing the game any favors for me, I don't think. But as I was like thoughtful about it as I was playing, I felt like I was rewarded for doing what it felt like they were asking me to do. Like, don't just fill all of my slots with weapons, just go with like maybe 3 weapons and maybe some ammo or something, or like a consumable, or just like be more willing to use consumables because I need to like save the space in my inventory anyway. And I did feel rewarded for that. Even if it wasn't like the greatest feeling in the world, I felt like I could play around the system they had in a way that mitigated most of the negative side effects. I don't know if you guys will agree with that, but that was the feeling I had while I was playing.
I will say that the one thing that the inventory system does do is like really dissuade me from like megalixer syndrome, where like I
Yeah.
feel like I actively want to use my healing items just to get them the fuck out of my inventory.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of yeah, exactly what you said, the megalixer syndrome. Like I didn't need to hoard shit. I'm just like I have my consumable sun rods and I'm just tossing that shit out like candy because the game gives me a lot of them and I need inventory space, so I may as well. I'm curious your guys' opinions on the stealth system, maybe as it relates to inventory, but just specifically on the stealth mechanics, because I haven't played any Metal Gear games, to be clear. I haven't played a lot of stealth games in general, like I haven't played Splinter Cell. But this might be one of my favorite applications of stealth in a game for diegetic purposes ever. I'm curious your guys' thoughts on that.
I knew that the system existed because I googled it, but by the time that I learned about the stealth system, I had already learned about the debug developer console, and I just turned the game into Call of Duty. But the idea of the stealth system is pretty cool, where if the enemies are facing away from you and you don't run, you can just like walk past them, right? Is that what it is?
The feeling I had that adds to the diegesis is that like the more you act like them, the less likely they are to realize that it's you. So obviously don't flash a light on them. They don't have lights. If you run, they're going to notice you because they don't run unless they're aggro, and like don't get close to them, otherwise they'll like see you or whatever. And it all makes sense because like you are them, you're all androids or whatever. And I don't feel like that's the strongest argument, but again, it's a feeling I had while playing. I feel like it was adding to the diegetics where I kind of needed to act like them and be with them.
So even though I interacted with it very little, I also want to add to the diegesis where, like, if you walk into a room and there's enemies in there, you'll notice that they don't like immediately aggro you if they're facing away from you. And then that kind of like maybe percolates a thought in your mind that maybe you can do the stealth thing and just like figure it out on your own. So that was conceptually pretty cool, I think.
I would like it more if it was more like Metal Gear Solid, where you had to stealth, because if you didn't, then you got fucking hoarded or something. Because in this game, kind of like Ben and Tom said, like you don't have to interact with that system at all. You can just run by things, and it's more effective and less annoying because it doesn't waste your time.
Yeah, honestly, like I never even thought for a second about the like movement in this game as being stealth, because most of the time I was moving around, I was just holding the sprint button down the entire time and just running past them because they're not hard to juke.
I mean, did you guys even do that in that like I'm thinking of that one room in nowhere where there's the mina out of nowhere and there's like fucking 5 enemies in there. It's one of the rooms with the dolls. Like you can just walk around to pick up basically every consumable in that area and you won't aggro them.
Yeah, that room I did go slow, I will say. Although I did sprint up to the doll and then sprint out. But yeah. There are a couple of rooms where I think maybe a stealthier approach would have benefited me a lot, like the Colibri room. Calibri? I don't know how to say that. But
Libria.
in Act 3, where there's a bunch of bitches in a room and the Calibri, and that room is... That's probably the hardest room in the game, in my opinion, anyway. That would have helped if I, like, chilled a little bit.
Yeah, I just really like that aspect of like, it's almost like an amnesia thing, or like maybe some other horror games that I can't quite think of right now, where like you have to be very, very fucking close to them, and it's just like a hair pinch away from them assaulting you. I just really like that level of tension that the game provides.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, now that you're talking about it, I really wish it was like a Metal Gear Solid system where if you got caught, suddenly like all the doors open and then you just get fucking flooded and then you basically got to get to a safe room or you're gonna die. Like I
Yeah,
think that would be so much better.
you are kind of right in the fact that like if I fuck up in one room, I can just like exit. Like, oh no, I accidentally left my flashlight on, and now the entire room is aggroed. Okay, leave. Wait 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Go back in. Okay, cool.
Yeah, like even that Calibri room I was talking about, like once I figured out that all you have to do to deal with those is move into the room, tune into the frequency, leave, go back in, tune into the frequency, leave, go back, like rinse and repeat until the Calibri is dead, kind of eliminated a lot of the tension of like the harder rooms that do have the Calibris in them. So yeah, I think that the way that you can just essentially avoid combat in this game sort of served to its detriment. And I actually did have the thought a couple of times while playing of like, man, if the enemies followed me through this door, this game would be fucking hard.
Yeah.
Like, it would be mind-numbingly difficult.
I think that's the problem. They didn't really like lean into difficulty on the gameplay side, where they leaned into difficulty on the narrative side, and that's like the cool part of the narrative, right? Versus like the gameplay, like they just dumped it down to like an extreme that's crazy.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and I think it's important to recognize that I actually don't hate the gameplay in this game. Like even like the inventory management stuff. To me, the inventory management, like outside of the few instances I'm talking about where you have to carry around a bunch of shit to like plug it into a puzzle, it pretty much just boiled down to carry around 2 healing items and then 2 weapons that I have the most ammo for, and then the ammo. And that's really all that the inventory management was, and it was very, very simple. And I actually, by the end of the game, I did actually really like engaging with the combat of this game. Maybe because I actually liked the last boss fight, and I was like kind of pissed that they waited until the end of the game to
Yeah.
actually include something that felt like an interesting fight. But yeah, I actually by the end of the game was kind of growing to the combat and the like shooting mechanics and all that shit.
I do want to say one thing to kind of transition out of the inventory talk, but mention it. I actually, and you guys might disagree with this. That's fine. Especially Ben, you might especially disagree with this. I love the controls in this game. I thought the controls in this game made the inventory management so much better and easy and fine once I like knew what I was doing with it. Like it all felt very, very smooth to me.
If you're just talking about using that menu in general, I actually did enjoy that. I just didn't enjoy the juggling of the items. That's it. But like everything to
Okay.
do with the menu was actually awesome. I loved everything about it, except needing to use the left stick to navigate to a very important part, the module screen. That it's just a crime against game UI. Always use the fucking D-pad or arrow keys to navigate UI. Don't use analog controls. It's just sorry, it's just a sticking point for me.
That is what I was curious about, though. I wasn't sure if the controller schema was any better or worse than the keyboard, but it sounds like it was pretty good.
Yeah, and there was just, yeah, I guess the reason why it bothers me so much is that there's no reason for it to be like that because on that the module screen they made the D-pad or the arrow keys, I assume, control the radio frequency, but you could have just bound it so that you can't move that radio frequency until you activate the radio module, and then that way, when the radio module isn't activated, you can use the D-pad to navigate the menu itself. Like, it's just a fucking no-brainer. I don't know why they didn't do it.
Yeah, I played this game exclusively keyboard mouse, and I don't think I ever really had the thought that the controls were bugging me other than one spot, which was in the same menu where you control the radio, having to like scroll up to find the specific like document log that you're looking for was sometimes really fucking annoying because you just had to scroll through them like one at a time, and it would sometimes take fucking forever. Like there were a number of times where I thought the game was gonna like harken back to Act One, where they give you the radio frequencies for like star, moon, etc., etc. And it never did after Act One, but there were a couple times where I thought it would, and going in there and scrolling up to that fucking log and trying to remember what it was called was such a pain in the dick. But that was the only time I think the UI really bugged me.
Speaking of the radio, though, can I just say the hardest thing in this entire game was getting to a specific frequency?
Yeah, very true. My God. Why didn't they just let me type in a frequency? I mean, I guess I understand why, but come on.
Because you just be like scrolling past, and after you have like moved one full frequency, it starts moving by one entire frequency every time. So if you overshoot it by one, it's like say you're on frequency 98 and you want to get to 99, it'll go up to 98.9 and then skip to 100 instead of going to 99. That shit was impossible.
Yeah, it felt like a rhythm game.
I don't know. That didn't bother me at all. It seemed pretty easy enough to do on controller. I don't know if it's different on keyboard mouse, but I had no problems just getting to the frequency I needed.
Yeah, I played on controller and same.
How did you guys feel about the radio mechanics kind of like in general? Like the way that the game used it as like in puzzles and combat and diegetics and all kinds of different ways. I thought it was really cool.
I
It's a 10
actually,
out of 10.
I agree. I like the radio a lot. It's one of my favorite parts of the whole game.
Incredibly unique, incredibly thematic. No notes, wouldn't change a thing.
I think it's underutilized, if anything.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that. I actually think that like I think if they had used it in more combats outside of just the Calibris, I think that there's like a lot of room to have done it. Like it's really surprising to me that they didn't use it in the Falky fight, for example. Like that felt like the absolute perfect place to use the radio a little more, and they didn't, which was a little surprising. But yeah, I 100% agree with you guys. Like super
Yeah,
solid idea that they executed really well.
I didn't even think about that until just now, but I just like brainstormed a bunch of cool ideas you could do with that mechanic to make them kind of like really interesting, like almost like MMO raid style fights where like you would need to set a certain frequency to like deactivate barriers so you could shoot the boss. Like you know those barriers that float around the boss? Maybe I don't know, you would have to deactivate them and they'd be in different positions, or you could use them for cover, so you could use a frequency to like activate a cover. I don't know. There was just a lot of things that would have been really cool. And I don't really fault the game for not doing that because that's like a lot of scope creep. But it's just like really cool ideas that just like appeared in my brain when you guys mentioned it.
I I think the I think the issue of having it at least in the Falky fight, maybe in others, like I kind of felt this with the Colibri sometimes when there were other enemies on the screen, is that like having to pause and go into the menu to change a frequency and experiencing that thing where you overshoot it and then try to get back to the like actual one you're trying to do, it kind of disrupts the flow of combat. And Falky was a good enough boss that I'm kind of glad that it didn't get disrupted.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just mean it sort of generically. Like, I'm surprised that in a game literally titled Signalis, where that radio frequency, at least insofar as I can tell, plays a very core, pivotal narrative role, that it didn't like get included in that fight at all. Or even like at a couple other like puzzles. I think that they used it inside of like the meat of the game enough times, well enough, but I think that's one point where I'm surprised that they didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, maybe if there was something small, like there was just like a short little puzzle where you had to tune into a particular frequency to wake Falky up and then you fight her, like something like that would have been cool, sure.
Yeah, honestly, like even something as simple enough as like in one of her phases, just spawning a Calibri, like would have been fine.
Did you guys like all of the perspective shifts that this game did with the like first person usages?
For the most part, yeah, I thought they looked cool. That's about it. Because that's really all I got about from those sections is just that they looked cool.
Yeah, I feel like if anything, they're kind of like Thomas was saying with the radio to me, where they feel a little underutilized because like they look really good and most of the puzzles that involve them are really good. Um, I kind of wish there was like a little bit more like horror-y stuff with them. There never really was, so it always felt like after one of the first times when you're in the elevator shaft, I was actually like really expecting like a big spook, like something was gonna pop out of the fucking elevator door or whatever, but nothing ever does. And after like two or three times where nothing happened with that, it felt like more of a solace than tension.
Yeah, I guess when I think about the first person segments, I think less about like where it zooms in the camera and like does its best like mist impression or whatever. Um, I think more about like the sections on whatever that painting is called, where you're walking on the beach, where it uses it to like narrative effect.
Yeah, that's what I was
Um,
talking about as well. Like those scenes, like I didn't know what the fuck was going on, but they looked cool.
yeah, I fucking loved all of those scenes. I thought like every single one of them was like, so it was really well written, and it served as like a, there was always like a really thick thread to connect to the narrative every time they did it, that like either answered questions or had me ask new ones that were interesting. And so I felt like they could have made them really egregious and unnecessary, but they used them to really, really, really good effect.
Yeah, I think they're cool. I mean, I could do without them as well. Like, I don't know. Yeah, they're cool that they're there, but if they weren't there, I wouldn't be upset by it.
Yeah, that's true too. Like they weren't like super necessary. Like, and that's kind of why I was curious to ask the question, because they don't really feel necessary, like to the point to where I don't really know what they add, but they also don't really detract. So it's like, I don't know. I was wondering if you guys had any like insight that would make it more interesting one way or the other, I guess.
I mean, I'm just gonna go back to like kind of the thematics of what I was saying, where like I think they do a lot of these weird perspective shifts in that sense, uh, to add to that dreamlike quality. Like I think that's just like a fundamental component about dreaming, where you're like literally your perspective, your consciousness is just shifting around constantly, and I think disorienting you in that way adds to that feeling. Again, the only miss with them, I think, for me is I just wish that they felt more like tension rather than a relief to tension.
I agree somewhat because, like, and I'm looking at this question that you wrote, which is, did this game scare you? And that would have been a nice place to have like some kind of like pseudo horror, maybe not necessarily a jump scare, but something to like kind of freak you out a little bit. Because to answer that question as well, this game didn't scare me literally even a single time, like at all.
Yeah, I feel like calling this game a horror game is like almost a misnomer. Like, I understand where its roots are in survival horror, but this game was more like an exercise in like sadness and melancholy than it was horror, I thought. Outside of like some visual stuff.
I definitely agree, but it definitely also had some go fuck yourself jump scares.
Where
Yeah, like
the
where?
only time I ever remember going ugh was like the first time an enemy gets up and attacks you because it makes a loud noise.
Yeah, I mean, it was usually related to the loud noise, but like when you get the flashlight for the first time, like there's a room that you probably already saw that was totally pitch black, and maybe you didn't check to see with your reticle if there were already enemies in there, but you go in there, you turn your flashlight on, and bam, jump scare. Like, okay.
Oh, I definitely went in that room and shot the fuck out of those guys. So yeah.
I'm also a pussy with jump scares, so whatever.
Yeah, so am I, but this game still didn't scare me.
Yeah, this game just didn't have any jump scares to me was the thing. Like even like primo jump scare time would have been every time I forget the name of the enemies, the ones that like come up out of the floor, like if they made some sort of like fucking jump scary noise and came up, because those things sometimes would like freak me the fuck out, but they just come up silently and then run at you, and then I run out of the room and don't give a shit anymore.
Yeah, those ones felt a lot more tense than scary, which I think is fine if the rest of the game isn't scary, you know?
I think that's kind of what the gameplay is missing, though. Like, since it's not scary, there doesn't feel like there's any stakes. Like, if you die, you just feel annoyed. You never feel like there's never like the buildup of fear and then the release with like a laugh or like a like a release point or anything. It just kind of feels like a bunch of tedium built on top of itself.
Oh man, you're totally right about that actually. You know the worst part about that is when like you aggro a room and you realize you're just fucked or you took like 3 hits and you're like, "Oh, whatever, I'm just going to die."
Yeah,
And then it takes like 15 seconds for them to actually kill you.
yeah. You like save load because you're like, ah, fuck, I don't want to waste this healing spray. So instead, I'm just gonna load the game, whatever. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I will say some of the qualities surrounding that were improved for me when I just kind of like accepted my losses in some of those situations.
Yeah, I never reloaded, so it's interesting to hear you guys say that. Like, I felt like if the game wanted to make scarcity like a core tenet of its design philosophy, I was just gonna abide by that. But I mean, I'm a guy who doesn't use the developer console in any game, so I'll just suck it up and like get the experience that the developers wanted me to have. And I don't know, I never really felt like I was necessarily like too restricted on anything really, outside of maybe some ammo in the beginning.
I kind of want to actually before we jump back into narrative because we might do a deep dive on that. We'll see. Um, do you guys want to give any like special shout outs to any of the art assets, like the other visuals that we haven't talked about, the music, et cetera, et cetera?
I think that the music is sick, but it doesn't use the music well enough in like emotional moments to make it like as good as like a Near or like a Clair Obscur soundtrack.
I don't think it was really going for that either, though, is the thing. Because I actually disagree. I think where the soundtrack like wants to like stand out in those emotional moments in like the cutscenes and stuff, it does a really good job. Where it does not do a good job is inside of the actual gameplay, where it's just kind of like ambient background noise that I never really noticed. But like when there's emotional beats going on in cutscenes, I felt like a lot of the songs were really good.
I also felt pretty evoked. Like all the music was very evocative in the moments that they chose to use it. Maybe some of the mixing made it like a little bit quiet. Maybe that would be a bigger criticism because I think they do have a really good soundtrack and is maybe just a little bit on the quiet side. But the actual songs themselves, I think, are great for the scenes that they're describing.
I really like the combat songs. Combat songs are awesome.
I think the visual clutter really like distracts from like the emotional hits of the soundtrack because like you're trying to like suss out what's going on the screen and then like the music's playing and everything and it's just kind of like a one big like confusion bowl that they constantly throw at you.
Is that detracting for you? Because I actually kind of
Yes.
like that.
Yeah. In terms of like being because like I don't even remember what I think is the second best song on the soundtrack, Cigarette Wife. I don't even remember that playing during that scene because you're too busy looking at the scene being like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, but I like kind of what I'm trying to get at is that I think a lot of the songs in this soundtrack, maybe except for like the I don't know if it's actually the title song, but like the one with the really nice piano riff that I really like. I don't think that the music, the score, is supposed to be the focal point in any of these. I feel like they're adding to the scenes, and I feel like they're successful at that, even if like you don't remember them in hindsight, you know?
Yeah, and that's kind of the point I was trying to make, right? Like, I don't think comparing the soundtrack of this game to like a Clair Obscur is like even remotely fair, because I don't think the soundtrack of this game is like meant to be the sort of like emotional anchor point that it is in games like that.
Yeah, I mean that's basically my exact like criticism, because I think it could be. I think that the scenes just aren't set up for that. I think the soundtrack's good enough to be able to do that, like ish. Like the high points are for sure.
Well, I mean, then you're turning the soundtrack into like a completely different thing that it's not intended to be, though, and the music would be totally different. So we're
No,
talking
I mean
about like a separate reality.
I think The Promise and Cigarette Wife are two songs that are like as good as anything Lorien Testard made for Clair Obscur. I think those two songs are really, really fucking good, and it would be like really evocative. But I think because of all like the confusion that they're throwing at you, they don't hit as hard. And like when you're choking out Ariane, I don't even know if a song plays there. Like that could be a moment, you know.
Then on the flip side, I wouldn't mind if that was just kind of like a fucking like cold close to the game. Like that would be a good time to actually do something like that.
I mean, I guess part of the point is that like if I think back to Clair Obscur, there's like I think my favorite instance of music in that game is when you confront Painted Renoir at the top of the monolith, and like the game very intentionally pauses between all of their lines of dialogue, and like the score that plays during that scene is very clearly built around that scene. And I guess you could say that this game would be better off if it did that with the score, but I just feel like that's not de facto necessary for the score to be good. Or am I putting words in your mouth?
I don't think it's necessary, but I do think it makes it. It takes good music and makes it generational. Like it's harder to make like a generational song, like the one that plays when you fight Painted Renoir, like Un v Tamir or whatever it's called, and or a song like it, because that song would stand on its own. You don't need any like any like kind of scene structure or anything. Like literally just the song. It's so good. But like they have two, like I said, really good songs. Like Cigarette Wife is like one of the best. Like I'm about to fuck your shit up songs like you can make. And then The Promise is just like a really good like emotional kind of like here we go like remembrance kind of song. And I don't think that they use them to the potential that they could have in a way that makes me take soundtracks and go like generational with them.
I mean, I feel like it's like really unfair to 99.9999% of soundtracks to expect them to be generational, though. Like I can appreciate like 200 basketball players without having to say, well, they're not Michael Jordan, you know?
But it's a game that's kind of trying to be generational with like the crazy shit that they did with the narrative. Like it took them 8 years to make the game, and I don't think that that was in the inventory system. You know?
I think what
Yeah.
I'm having trouble understanding that I would like you to clarify is like you're saying the songs are good. I think you're saying the scenes are good. So why are like where what could
I'm
it have
not even
done
saying
better?
that the scenes are good. I think that they obscure too. I think that they focus on like cosmic horror and confusion as like the main focus of all the cutscenes that they made. At least I think so. And so because of that, like the music kind of takes a backseat to trying to visually ingest everything that's going on. Rather than just make a beautifully constructed scene. It's like when you fight Falk and shit, it's showing you like this god does not forgive you or whatever it says, and then it says shit in German, and then it quotes the Book of Revelation, and then it says fucking this scene is too violent to show, and then it says shit in Chinese, and you're like, what the fuck? You know, you have no idea. Your ears aren't even on for shit like
Yeah,
that.
like the way that it sounds to me, it's like a mental stack thing. Where it's
Exactly.
just like if you had that one scene with like the lesbian shit, you just played like an emotional song there. I would like something like that because that's
Yeah.
like an emotional anchor. But there was none of that in this game because there's fucking nothing. It's just confusion and nothing else.
I don't think that they really like pulled like the music ties into emotion on scenes like that because yeah, like Ben said with that lesbian scene, I cannot tell you what song played. It might be The Promise. I don't know what song plays there. But that would be a great time to just kind of play like a like have like nice strings going while they're laying next to each other or something like yeah.
So then my question is like what's the problem with that? Because in my eyes, in order to solve that, you need to dial back portions of the cutscenes that may be distracting, but the point of this game is not the music. The point of this game is what's inside of the cutscenes, which, yeah, I can understand it being like information overload to the point to where it's really hard to like parse out the details of the music, because I mean I had the same like thoughts and problem too. But to me, in order to fix that problem, you need to detract from the stuff that actually made this game really good.
I think in some cases you do, but I think in some cases you don't.
I feel like for me, it's like I think that this game is definitely asking you to play it multiple times. You know,
Oh,
you can
yeah.
criticize that for sure if you want.
Yeah, that's a
And
fucking insult.
I I just feel like if that's the case, then like some of those criticisms of the like visual bloat being too much are less meaningful to me.
I mean, I definitely agree with you. This game expects you to play it probably 4 times to get each ending, like, on your own, if not more than that, if you, like, really, really like it, you know?
I meant to ask this earlier, but I'm going to ask it now. What the hell controls the different endings that you get? Like, what are the variables that like operate on that?
So it's boiled down. So of the 3 main endings, not counting artifact, memory you get basically just by being kind of in the middle, doing nothing in particular. Leave you get by being like a coward, staying in safe rooms for too long, not killing any enemies, taking a bunch of damage, checking a lot of locked doors a lot. Like it's things like that that gives you leave. And then to get promise, you have to be really aggressive. So you have to take a lot of damage, kill fucking everything you see, go really fast. And then Artifact is like a crazy fucking ARG ending, basically, where you need to play certain frequencies at certain parts of the game, and you figure out what parts of the game you play those on by when you play those frequencies, you run them through a spectrogram, and then you see the image that it creates, and then you go to that image with the frequency on, and then it gets you a key, and you need to do that 3 times to unlock a safe at the end of the game.
What the fuck? That's sick as
Jesus
hell.
Christ.
I
Yeah,
didn't know that at all.
you're not getting Artifact if you're not like a nerd or looking it up.
That reminds me, is that at all related to the item that you get in Act 3 that has the QR code on it? Because before I realized where I was supposed to slap that item down, I was like sitting there like a retard with my phone, like, why can't I scan this fucking thing?
Oh, that's really fun.
As far as
I
I know,
never
no,
even
that's
thought to
just for that
scan.
puzzle. Yeah.
Yeah, don't try and scan it with your phone. At least for my Pixel 8, it did not work.
All right. Do you guys I don't know how deep we want to go into the narrative, but do you guys want to start on that?
It's all yours.
Yeah, I mean, that's the game, so...
There's just a lot. There's a lot to this narrative. There's a lot. There's a lot to the characters. There's a lot to the world building. There's a lot to what the fuck happens. Even what even the fuck is that? Like Jesus,
So...
I don't even know where to start.
So I'll start because, like I mentioned earlier, I've not watched any videos, I've not read any wikis, and my assumption is that the people who bothered to care enough to read into this game did. So, what I wanted to do was give you guys kind of my interpretation of this game, not necessarily the events, because I honestly think that like the events of this game, outside of like the granular details, are like kind of self-evident. But where this game lives is in like allegory and illusion and metaphor and stuff. So before you guys kind of launch into like your explanation born from external sources, I just wanted to go over kind of what I thought of this game.
The floor is yours.
All right, so I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, but to me, this game felt like it was basically just one big exercise in Jungian psychology in an absolute myriad of ways. So, to give sort of like a brief lecture for this, like Jung's whole thing was that in order for someone to become a quote unquote whole person, you have to confront all of the hidden parts of your own mind. And he breaks that down into a few different categories. So the first one is going to be your ego, which is your conscious mind and the person that you think that you are. And then the next one would be the persona, which is the mask that you wear like when you're out in public and the way that you want the outside world to view you. The shadow, which is the part of yourself that's kind of repressed and dark and animalistic. It's the shit that you hide both from the outside world and yourself. So like your traumas, your fears, things that you just kind of like stuff down and compartmentalize. And then the last one is sort of more like Jungian, metaphysical, essentialist, weird, zany bullshit, which is your anima and your animus, which is like your inner soul, more or less. It's like a spiritual guide. Usually it's represented by like a person of the opposite gender. So, like, our animus would be a female, right? Or our anima. So, one really important thing here to recognize is that Jung thought that the primary way that we confront these hidden selves, or I guess another way of thinking about it, like alternatively, like the way that our hidden selves communicate with us is through dreams. Like that is a very like core kind of concept, because Jung and Freud were kind of doing their own shit sort of in parallel at the same time, over the course of the same like time span, and they were both kind of obsessed with dreams. And again, Jung kind of took on this metaphysical approach to it that some people don't find palatable. But I find that basically the entire world of Signalis is a lot of Jungian like dream concepts made literal. So a lot of it is just, well, really, it's all just Ariane's dying bio-resonant nightmare being broadcast and overwriting reality. And so, quite literally, this game is just being played inside of her dream, basically. So if we break down sort of the progression of where things go. So Act 1, when you're in the what's it called, Sierpinski mine, this is the ego level. So you're in the first layer of your brain, right? So Elster has her conscious mission, which is just to find Ariane, right? But the masks, your personas, which are the replicas, everything is shattering around you. Like everything is coming unwound, everything is coming undone. And this is Ariane's sense of this external order and rules breaking down into this corruption. And in my opinion, this is the only part of the game that takes place in something more concretely or firmly inside of like the real. Like this Act 1 is the last time that you see or interface with actual reality. And then Act 2 is where you descend down into Ariane's shadow and her kind of collective unconscious, which is another Jungian thing. And Elster falls outside of the real of Act 1 into this kind of raw, fleshy, abstract kind of hellscape. And it's not so much a memory as it is like this raw, terrifying, repressed substructure of Ariane's memories and nightmare. Because again, you basically just jumped into her subconscious dreams, right? And then Act 3 is where we're getting into the shadow, where Elster is going to surface on Rotfront, but this isn't the real Rotfront. This is kind of the memory palace that Ariane's repressed past sort of is manifesting for you. And so this act is the quest for the anima, right? This is where Ariane is, or Elster, I guess, is looking for Ariane's true self. And so she has to navigate all of this personal trauma and the memories of her anima in order to finally reach the Penrose, which is the heart of that trauma, which is where we find Falke, who is kind of like the shadow mirror of Ariane. So essentially this whole game is inside of this loop. So Elster is not so much a person. I mean, obviously she's a replica, but I'm using person in quotation marks here, as she is like an archetype inside of Ariane's psyche, who's trying to confront this broken ego, descend into the shadow, and then sort through Ariane's anima's memories in order to find herself, and ultimately, ideally, does not happen outside of one of the endings, give the dreamer, who is Ariane, this sort of like inner peace. I know that is a very long-winded sort of interpretation, but a lot of the aspects of like what this game is and the way it presents itself is like very on the nose with kind of conveying these concepts. So again, it's not the literal interpretation of the story. I think it's just what the story is baked into in a lot of ways.
What's like the purpose that it's going for? Because you said like you always try to figure out like what a game it's like what it's trying to tell you.
What do you mean?
What do
Like
you think like the main thing, like the main theme of this game?
the main theme is just like it's trying to find like the quest for yourself, right? Like capital S self in terms of like the way that Jung thought about it, where again, the only way to become that sort of whole what's the word I'm looking for? Like actualized person is to confront all of your inner demons and all of like the shit that makes you like the shit that's getting in the way of you being the person that you want to be, because you have all of these shadowy repressed like memories and traumas that are getting in the way of you being that actualized person. And this game is just a journey through all of that for one person to find their quest to actualize themselves and become the person that they are like seeking to be.
What is first before I say anything, I just want to say this game is very difficult to talk about because there are many, 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 many correct interpretations of this game by design. But kind of what I want to ask along the end of what you said there is how do any of the endings of this game play into that last part you said about like finding yourself or however you phrased
So the ending is actually like kind of an interesting part of it, because again, Falky is sort of the fulcrum for a lot of this, where she's the corrupted shadow, right? Like Ariane was this like weak, sick, lonely, oppressed person, but Falky is powerful, healthy, godlike, and she's in total command, right? So she's like this perfect, idealized, powerful version of what Ariane like unconsciously or subconsciously wished she could be, which I think is the what leads to Falky becoming what's the word, like the locus for Ariane's like bio-resonant corruption takeover sort of deal. So past Falky, I think it gets a little confusing, and that's where it does sort of deviate outside of the one ending where she chokes Ariane to death. But I think there's the secret ending is really the one confounding factor, because I think the ending where she chokes her to death, that's like ending the loop. That's giving her peace. That is making her whole again by like achieving her promise, right? And then the one where she is lays down and dies next to her, presumably anyway, is they're all just like different interpretations of the way that a person could either end up finding their true self or stumble along the way, and then the true ending just kind of like throws all of that for a fucking loop and doesn't really make sense to me in this interpretation, at least.
Where does like Ariane serve in like the purpose of the story then? Because basically everything you said is like from Elser's perspective.
Ariane is everything. Like Elster is basically just like a subconscious manifestation of Ariane's like desire to go through all of this. Like you could basically just treat Elster as an extension of Ariane and like pretend that they are not two different people essentially.
under this interpretation. This is the most postmodern sentence I've said in this entire podcast. Is there a reality under that interpretation? Like, what is this all just in her brain meat?
So that's like the one thing that I really wrestle with this game, that I had a lot of trouble processing, is like what is real and what is not inside of this game, which is why I made the point of saying I think Act 1 is the only part where it does take place in some kind of actual reality. There's a couple of reasons I think that. Number one is there's more than one ship, or at least there's more than one ship depicted. But the only time you ever really physically enter the ship, like clearly, is when you're in Sierpinski and you jump into the hole, and then everything after you jump into the hole, I think, is just like a mind fuck. And I think if I wanted to like try and apply some sort of literal translation to that, I would say that it's because Ariane is inside of her pod, and I don't know, fucky wucky radiation inside of the Penrose happened because we see radiation leaking at some point at the end of the game. And by virtue of that, Elster sort of basically enters into Ariane's reality / dream state / whatever the fuck is going on. But reality is a complicated question in this game. I could go either way in the sense that Act 1 is the only part of actual reality that we see, or there is no reality at all. I don't know where I sit on that fence.
All right, Sesh, do you want to go into it or do you want me to?
You can.
So I think that this is underselling, I think, how correct you are, because I think you're like in the right track. I think generally of like some of the interpretations that I've seen. Like Sesha's gonna know what I mean when I say the two dream theory. Is like where I'm kind of at with a lot of this, but I think like more broadly than that, a lot of your understanding of the narrative and your opinions on the reality of everything is kind of it's kind of on a scale, and that scale is how willing you are to accept supernatural shit, for lack of better terms, or maybe put another way, how willing you are to accept the idea of bioresonance affecting the entire society that this game presents to you, and how powerful of a thing that reality warping factor can be. Because like broadly where I'm at, not even going into the two dream theory to not like plagiarize someone or whatever, but like where I'm at is that I mean, it's like you said, like reality is very complicated, but I'm not the kind of person that is satisfied with a game that tells me I'm just in a dream the entire time, even if it's very meaningful. I like to draw meaning through story, not the other way around, which is I feel like your interpretation is, which there's nothing wrong with that, to be clear. It's just how I prefer it. So I almost like Ben, I kind of take what I'm seeing at face value, but that has to be like reinterpreted through the lens of this abstract dreaming that is clearly going on. So, like, to me, the most broadly, what's going on is that everything we see is reality. Like, these things are happening.
So I will say, I guess like an important thing to mention before you continue is that really nothing about what I said is my read on the literal events of the story as well. I think that's important to mention because I didn't want to go into that for fear of like talking for another 15 minutes. So what I was describing, it was just the background radiation that serves as kind of the backdrop of the game, not so much what actually transpires in the game. The reality question notwithstanding, because that one I was trying to give kind of my literal interpretation of.
Yeah, I just feel like in this game, that's an important distinction because I just really don't like media where it's like, oh, it's all in a dream, nothing happened, whatever. I don't think very many people like that. And I just like to anchor everything by saying it is reality. These things are happening. It's just because of how bioresonance works in combination with the weird state that are like the weird fucking living flux state that Ariane is in, like it just fucks with everything on top of all the other like pseudo supernatural shit that's going on with the red gate and everything, if you choose to interpret that as supernatural or not. um, but yeah, I just wanted to state that for the record if anyone else wants to jump.
Yeah, and I will say as well that I don't think that there is no reality going on in this game. I think that when I say that I don't know if there is a little bit or no reality in this game, it is not to say that everything going on with Ariane isn't happening or did happen. It's more so just the way that Elster is interfacing with Ariane. I don't know if that's grounded in reality, but do I think that Ariane did like go on the Penrose, enter into the cryopod, somehow become this like bio-resonant fucking god who like somehow or another became Falky's Wi-Fi extender, who then disseminated all of that to the Calibris and then basically fucked the entire universe up or galaxy or solar system or whatever. Like, yes, I do think that did literally happen within the confines of the game. It's just I don't know when we enter into the story events of this game if what we are seeing is like actual factual reality.
And I think that it is. It's all just complicated and abstract because of the premise, but like basically, I guess my interpretation in terms of the what's happening is like it's not exactly that you're in a time loop. It's not a time loop, but Ariane's consciousness wants to die. It wants to fulfill the promise, which you can either interpret that as Elster murdering Ariane, or however many other interpretations of that there are with their love and so on and so forth. The quote unquote loop is Ariane's desire for that to happen, manifesting by altering the consciousness of Elster units into going forward and doing it. And the primary means where this becomes a loop is through Adler, who, through his consciousness, like his material experience, is effectively in a time loop, I think. So I think that there is a material there, a material reality there, because like when you fall down the elevator when Adler pushes you, like there's an entire fucking elevator shaft of previous Elster units that tried to do this, and you see that like throughout the rest of the game as there's other Elster units that like failed their task. One of the leading, I guess, like interpretations or theories is that at the end of Act 2, when you get the white armor, when you like get the new arm and everything, then you are taking the body parts from the Elster that failed in the memory ending, I believe it is, because she dies in the same position. And so there's an implication there that it's less a time loop and more of like a like just repeatedly trying the same thing over and over and over again by having the consciousness transplanted into new Elster units to do the same thing.
So
it's really hard to get into fucking specifics with this game.
So I actually did kind of go through a process of writing out the different characters and the way that I think like different Jungian archetypes apply to them, and Adler I think is an important one. So Jungian archetypes, I don't want to get into that too deeply, but I will just say that Adler is the archetype of the Senex, aka the wise old man, aka the sage. And he is there to represent like this sort of order, law, rigidity, status quo type shit. And so when I think about Adler, so for the record, I do think that I don't know if I would necessarily apply the label time loop to it, but I would apply some loop, X loop. There is some sort of looping going on, and so outside, like to me, Adler is again trying to maintain that status quo. He's like the immune system of everything that's going on inside of Ariane's head. And so, like, he's the part of Ariane's head that's like terrified of this emotional quest that Elster's on, and he's like actively trying to suppress that trauma that Elster's trying to bubble up to the surface in order to close out the loop for Ariane. So, like, he's this rigid, desperate part of all of our minds that would rather live inside of this looping nightmare hellscape rather than like face the sort of terrifying truth and finality of it all.
Yeah, I think the time loop thing's weird because it's like not, but then Adler writes in his diary and the date doesn't change, but he feels like the date's changed, so like it is. It's like that part I don't understand, and I haven't seen anybody give me a good like solution to that.
I feel like it's like I can't say exactly why it happens, but it just feels like a consequence of whatever is happening with Falky's bioresonance, and the reason he's like this immune system set up like Thomas was describing is because he's trying to protect Falky. That's my vibe, but I don't have an explanation for why that translates into a time loop, or if that is even really what's happening outside other than the journal.
Adler is absolutely protecting Falky. That's said like very literally in Act 1. Like inside of his journal, I think he says something to the effect of I can't remember the exact wording, but like he just feels this like not unnatural, but like unbreakable bond towards her, and that's why I think when Falky like gets sick and is like laying on her deathbed or whatever, is why he kind of loses his shit and adopts that sort of like immune system role.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a corollary. Adler and Falky are a bit of a corollary to Ariane and Elster, uh, in the sense where they're kind of both trying to fulfill the promise of the other. And like Adler, if like you read through the descriptions of all of the different replica, what do you call them, like archetypes? Like, you know, there's the Storch, the Mina, the Elster, and they say like who pairs with what, and so on and so on. Uh, Adler pairs with Falky. Like one of them is for business, one of them is for the military, and so like diegetically they are linked in that way. In addition to like the actual events and how they play it out in the game.
Right, there's Elster and Ariane, which are lovers. There's Falky I say Falk, but I just think that's because I think it sounds cooler. And Falk and Adler, who are like subordinate to one another or like business partners. And then it's Issa and Emily, whatever her sister's name is. Her sisters, Erica. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I never put together. What was happening there? Were they sisters?
Couldn't tell you. So Issa and Erica are sisters, yes. But why is Issa there? I haven't found someone to explain a way that I like. The video that me and Seth watched says that theorizes that Issa is a self-insert of Ariane into the dream to interact with like Elster, but I don't like that. I don't think it really works for me, so I don't have an answer for Issa.
I can tell you what I wrote.
Go ahead.
I wrote down that her role in the story is to represent failure. So she's what happens when the hero gets lost in their unconscious and they get consumed by the quest and end up failing. So she's wandering hopelessly through like the nowhere. She doesn't show up in Rotfront, I don't think. So she's just wandering hopelessly and ends up dying, and her quest is unfulfilled. So she's just kind of this like dark reflection who's showing Elster like the futility and despair that the journey that she's on is kind of soaked in.
But then Elster just does the same thing in the memory ending, so that's why like
Just
like,
to clarify real quick.
Go ahead.
Issa does show up in Rotfront. That's where
dies.
she evaporates.
Yeah. Yeah. Inside of the room with her fucking sister's portrait. Yeah, duh. That was a cool moment, by the way. I fucking love that part.
Oh yeah.
When
That's
she
my favorite scene.
like fucking dissolves into the bloody goop. That part was fucking sick ass.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of her story that contributes again to like the theming and what they're trying to get at. And I'm saying all this very broadly because it's difficult to interpret, but yeah, no, I agree. I thought that scene was awesome. Probably a highlight of the game for me, especially with like the Prometheus line that's right behind her.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely not a strong, solid answer to what she is supposed to represent. Because of that, I just lean towards her representing Ariane's like deep subconscious or alternative ways of fulfilling the promise, but can't do it because Elster has to. But I just feel like I don't have a better answer than that.
Yeah, again, I mean that's basically what I wrote, right? Is she's just there to like demonstrate failure. I'm curious who Erica is and what their relationship, because does it actually ever explicitly say that Erica is Issa's sister? It says that
They have the same last name.
It says it somewhere.
Okay. Well,
and their mom is Lilith.
Oh, the medical record.
Oh yeah,
and
that's
Lilith
right.
is the
Lilith
gestalt of Elster. I think.
Yeah. Well, no, there's two, right? Or there's two that it could be. At least that was the fuck. Lilith is the only one I remember, but there's another one that because I was trying to figure that out, and Lilith seemed like she was the most obvious, but there was another one who was like in a picture or in that medical log. Fuck, I cannot remember, and I didn't write it down. Who I thought might also be like a candidate to be a gestalt for Elster.
I think the strongest evidence that Lilith is her gestalt is because there is the image of Lilith and oh my god, I can't remember the other woman
Alina.
in the picture, Alina.
Yeah.
And they're in the 5th Infantry Unit 12 or whatever, and the Elster unit that Ariane falls in love with is Unit 0512.
Yeah. And that was what made me think that it was Lilith, but there's another one that I think that there's like a small little like subtle bit of evidence that it could have been her as well, and I wish I could fucking remember. But I did sit in the camp that it was probably Lilith. And she's the mom of Issa and Erica? That's right,
They all
right?
have the last
Yep.
name.
Yeah.
E2.
Yeah.
Thomas, what do you think of the idea of? I'm going to try to, as broad, describe this succinctly as I can. But this is the two dream theory from the video that Jordan and I watched, which is effectively that there are two people dreaming and bioresonating and therefore affecting reality. There is Ariane, obviously, and the second is Falky. So when you're going through the game, the first act, when you're in Sierpinski, that is the dream of Falky, which would explain like why you're actually able to have everything so solidly there compared to Ariane, who never actually went to Sierpinski. And then the second act, you're in like the Venn diagram of those two dreams where they're intersecting in nowhere. And then the third act, you're in Rotfront where Ariane grew up, so you're in her dream, and that's where like you end the game. What do you think of that interpretation?
My first question would be, Ariane didn't go to Sierpinski? I thought she was going to go to Sierpinski. Is it that she was going to go to Sierpinski and she ended up getting on the Penrose?
Yeah, it was either she goes on the Penrose or she goes to Sierpinski, and that would not have been a good time.
Okay, because I thought she went to Sierpinski and then she got on the Penrose, so my like order of events was messed up, I guess. I guess I would have to hear like more evidence for why that is. What's the significance of that? Yeah, just tell me more.
Well, like we already know that Falk is the source of. I'm going to alternate between Falk and Falky now. We already know that she is the source of the sickness for all of the replicas. I think that's just outright stated, if I'm correct. Sesh, do you have any other specifics to bring that in? I'm forgetting on the evidence right now.
For so it's when she goes through the red gate, then she never feels the same again, and it's led to believe that there whatever's like deep inside of that planet tapped into the frequency of the magpie signal that was sending the bioresonance of Ariane. So then that kind of like got her to bioresonate with Falky, and then she starts to sleep.
See, I just sort of assumed that like if you're looking at it like top down as like a hierarchical thing, that this was like a portion of the story that I couldn't rationalize either, which is how did Ariane get so fucking powerful that she could bioresonate with all these people? And my underlying assumption was always just that radiation fucky wucky in
Yeah.
the guts of Sierpinski made her basically like mind meld with Falky, and then since Falky is sort of the I don't know the right word to use, like the manager for all the Calibris, and then the Calibris are the managers for everyone else, that Ariane basically just took Falky over and just cascaded that down to every replica in the fucking known universe, essentially. So I guess like my question then is, how does that like differentiate itself from this like two dream theory? Like how does Falky dreaming change that thought?
I think it's pretty similar. I think it's just explaining like exactly what happened. I think because I mean Ariane and Falk are like the same model. When they use it's the same shot. One has black hair, one has like gray hair. So I think it's kind of trying to say that they're pretty close to like analogous the same thing. And then there's like the split between like the part that I don't understand and I keep forgetting even though I look it up is that when like you fuses into we in that German fucking scene, and then like Falk and Elster then have to become one. But I don't understand how they weren't one in the first place, like how they were connected.
I think it's because, or my interpretation rather, is when Falk went through the red gate, like it's like you said, she got corrupted by the magpie signal, which was like the instruction to Elster to fulfill the promise. And because Falk went, and like the part of the thing about Falks is that they are similar to Calibris in that they're extremely bio-resonant. They have like psychic capabilities, which is why they can levitate shit, like she does with the spears at the end of the game. And when she goes through the red gate, she just gets like fully ass blasted with the magpie signal, and that causes like a lot of this the signal that Ariane is trying to communicate out is the consciousness of the Elster we play as, but Falk got corrupted with that. I'm not sure if that answered what you were asking.
Yeah, it's still like, yeah, because it's like fucked up because yeah, like Falk loses their identity because of it, which is like the hard part.
Yeah, and
And
I mean that's like outright stated.
yeah, I guess Elster needs to fuse with Falk to become Elster 512. But that doesn't make sense because you can still get the memory ending with that happening.
I guess like you could interpret it as, and this is more broad than specific, but like if Falk is representing order along with Adler because they're not one and the same, but they're linked in their like design purposes, right? Then Falk's desire to become one is like to unify the dreams, right? But Elster's goal is to end the dream. I guess like that's the most broad way I could think of it.
That hurts my head.
Yeah, it like that's the part where it gets really fucked up is like the ending of the game. It's the part where like it keeps losing me no matter how many times like I look into it and try to get other people's like opinion.
Yeah, like I said, like even for me, my like interpretation of this game like falls apart when I try to think about the ending.
It's like the toughest part, especially because the artifact ending is like a contradiction. Like it can't happen. So because of that, it's even more fucked up.
Yeah, the artifact ending is one that like I think I would need to sit with for like another week and then reread The King in Yellow in order to like try and apply what I feel like might be happening there, which is I I never wrapped my head around this after I said I was going to try and wrap my head around it earlier, but the way that I kind of see the artifact ending is that Elster is actually like supplanting Ariane and becoming the King in Yellow, because I think the reason that the King in Yellow is like such a strong motif throughout the game, or at least like, well, no, it is just a strong motif, is that Ariane is the King in Yellow. And I think that the artifact ending is trying to say that Elster is going to replace Ariane as the King in Yellow, and you can decide for yourself whether that's a good or a bad thing. I don't think it would be a good thing, but that's the only way that I can like wrap my head around what the fuck I'm seeing in the artifact ending, because otherwise it just makes no sense to me.
How does that play into them eternally dancing at the end?
Yeah, don't know.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, so I don't understand what happens before that. Like, I don't know the significance of showing the artifact and then like all of everything else that happens. But then that last scene seems to allude to the fact that they are going to dance together for eternity.
I mean, it would like symbolically that's representative of some sort of ascension to heaven, right? And like there's all of the like there, we've talked about all of the literature impacts on this game, but there's obviously a lot of religious impacts as well, like all of the angelic imagery surrounding Falk. There's like some Taoism in there. There's probably more that I missed. There's like random folklore, but yeah, I like the only thing I can interpret is that the artifact ending seems to be some kind of ascension to heaven, but I can't explain why.
Yeah, Tom's right. If you reread The King in Yellow, because there's something in that video it talks about it, but I can't remember because it's too foreign to me. It's something about like there's some kind of concoction that they make that when they like paint it on things, it turns it opal, and that does something to it that allows it to like I don't know, be fucking some crazy object, and that's like the significance of the lily, because that's what they do in the King in Yellow as
Yep.
well. But I'm missing details.
Yeah, the lily is the only reason why I'm even applying the King in Yellow to that
Yeah.
ending. Yeah, just as like a quick TLDR, like the King in Yellow is just a book about a play that when you read the play you go crazy, and a big like part of that is um, I keep wanting to say the yellow sign, but I don't know if I'm just like confusing it with red sign. Anyway, uh, yeah, like you'll see this yellow sign like on the walls and in your house or whatever, and that means that you're going to get led to the King in Yellow play. And one of the like fun things for me in this game was like in the beginning wondering if the King in Yellow that you pick up a couple of times, if that's the book, like the Robert Chambers book, or if it's meant to be the actual play that makes you go loco doco. And yeah, I think they allude to the yellow sign or the sign in yellow or whatever the fuck they call it. I forget. I haven't read that. I read that book like 2 years ago, which it should be fresher in memory, but it's not. But yeah, they allude to that like a bunch of times in the game.
This is an unrelated question. Well, unrelated to this game. Was the ring inspired by the King in Yellow?
Like the movie?
Yeah. Because you
Um,
describing it, I'm like, that's the fucking ring. Basically.
I mean, if you told me that it was, I would believe you because there's so much shit that is inspired by the King in Yellow, but I don't necessarily see the parallels outside of you watch the movie and then a fucking ghost comes out of your TV and murks you.
It feels more like a feels more like a read a wiki entry of the King in Yellow rather than actually read it and got inspired
like
by
loosely.
it.
But yeah. Yeah, but and so for the endings, another thing is like apparently all those endings like happened. Like that's kind of the thing. And then the artifact ending is like if all three of them failed or something. I don't know. That ending's fucked up. I remember when I first beat this game 3 years ago, it was like 4 days after it came out, and like no one had any info or anything. And after I watched the artifact ending, is when I was like, I don't know what the fuck's going on, and I just tapped out because there was no information anywhere. It was like way too fucking confusing because there was people being like, "What the fuck is going on?" And there wasn't even a wiki or anything. So yeah,
Yeah, that one throws me for a loop. Honestly, all four endings kind of throw me for a loop, but that one like especially.
yeah, it's fucking weird.
We kind of touched on this earlier, but do you guys feel like like this game draws a lot of like allusions to characters within itself by making them visually similar, kind of like Jordan was describing with Falcon Arian looking like identical other than a palette swap. Do you guys think that that's like does it get in the way of itself at all, or do you feel like it's like necessary for the kind of story that they're trying to get at?
Don't understand why they do it exactly, but I know it's for a purpose. Like I'm not like, oh, they're lazy by reusing this, but yeah.
Well, because like the broader thing that I want to get at as we start like zooming out, because I don't know how much deeper we want to get into this, because it's so difficult in a group setting like this, is like it's kind of like Thomas was talking about before with the canvas that we are meant to draw on with these levels of abstractions that these games present to us. Like, where is the line of a coherent narrative versus open to interpretation experiences for you guys? Because like if I think of a game like Clair Obscur, I think that's like the perfect line for an approachable game that is still open to interpretation in terms of like your morality of understanding of the ending. Whereas this game is like full fucking hog in terms of asking you to draw your own conclusions. Like, is it too much? Should it have toned it down a little bit or no?
I think y'all know the answer to that question from me.
I'm sorry, I got really lost in thinking about the artifact ending and I didn't listen to the question.
He's basically just asking the meta question that we have of yeah,
like where's the line for a coherent narrative versus open to interpretation experience?
Oh, I I have a very low bar for what I will accept insofar as like a game's level of like impenetrability. So
Well, I mean, there still has to be a line somewhere, right? So, like, where would it be for you?
the line is Finnegan's Wake, dude. Like again, that's like I'm a person who reads fucking Thomas Pynchon and fucking Infinite Jest, and the line is drawn at Finnegan's Wake. Feel free to Google a passage from that book if you want to try and understand what I'm referencing.
Yeah, I think that this game does a good job of like putting a lot of information there if you want to find it, but it doesn't explain it as well as like Clair Obscur does, right? Where like Clair Obscur is also like very mysterious, but by the end it kind of gives you most of the information. This game you kind of have to go and figure it out, and I think both are cool. I definitely don't I don't think this game is too obtuse, and I definitely think there's enough there.
Yeah, like I mean I agree with that. Like I don't think Clair Obscur is trying to be obtuse at all. I think Clair Obscur is it's hiding the details until it doesn't want
Yeah.
to anymore, but then by the end of the game, it's not asking you to like interpret the events and the themes. It's asking you a very tough question.
Yeah.
Which I think
Exactly.
which is different from a game that's like living in the abstract like this and Hello Charlotte, and to kind of a slightly lesser degree, 1,000 Times Resist.
Yeah, I think this game is definitely a lot more like Who's Lila, but done better.
Yeah, I actually 100% agree with that.
Liked Who's Lila way better than this piece of shit.
Why? What about Who's Lila?
Because I understood the story in that game. It's really that fucking simple. If this game isn't for you, this game provides literally fucking nothing. Thinking about this game makes me so mad. That's why I've kept quiet this whole time.
I might be wrong by a multiplicative of 2 of Ben's score.
Yeah,
think so,
honestly,
too.
It might be a
I-
multiplicative of 3.
this might be the only game I ever guessed Ben as the lowest score, and I don't think I went low enough.
I didn't go
I think
low
we
enough
should set
by
a rule for
lot.
ourselves. We should set a rule for ourselves that the farthest away from his score this time wins.
Okay. I sat here and I was kind of like lost in my own thoughts for about 5 minutes thinking about the artifact ending. So sorry, I was kind of checked out. But I think I have kind of like a final thought for how I envision what's going on there. And sorry to kind of bring this back to something we were talking about like 10 minutes ago. But what I was saying is that I felt like the ending of this game was Elster becoming the new king in yellow, because Ariane is the current king in yellow. She's like the godlike figure who is corrupting reality. And I think that what we see, that ritual, that's like the process, right? Like maybe Elster has to die 6 times or whatever, and that's just Elster sacrificing everything, her own identity, her own whatever, in order to like become the god of this new reality that she is going to construct, in order to become the new king in yellow. And so I was trying to think, how does that like apply to what we see in the dance? And my brain puzzled it out, and I think what we see is the very first thing that Elster decides to do with that new divine power. So after we see like the fucking zoom out cosmic horror red eye thing, and then Elster assumes the role of the new like mad god, the first act that she takes as god is to create her own version of heaven, where all she is going to do is dance with Ariane for eternity.
Yeah, I think like one layer that I think thematically adds to that is that like in a lot of ways this game feels like Elster's journey feels like it's designed around breaking out of your programming. Like that's very much intentional for what the first 2 acts are trying to get you to do. Like you have the promise within you, but it's for the wrong person. You're trying to find Alina. I think it's
Yeah.
Alina instead of Ariane. So like it's in you, but she has to break out of it to actually remember what the promise was. And I think part of the tragedy of Act 3, other than murdering your lover because you promised to, is that she's still stuck in that like programming that she has to do this, even though like she kind of does to actually like quote unquote fix reality. But I guess like my interpretation of what you're saying as well, Thomas, in a thematic sense, is that she's doing that like ascension to be the king in yellow, to break out of that programming, to ascend past her, cyborgy predetermined notion of what she has to be, just like she did when she fell in love with Ariane in the first place.
Hell yeah. What a sick game.
So first question is the king in yellow, he's like the god of mischief, or is he just a god, or what is he?
I think he's just kind of like a god of madness. It's like very Lovecraftian inspired, meaning there's not a whole lot of like detail about what the King in Yellow is, other than he lords over the realm of Carcosa, which is heaven or hell, depending on how you want to read it, and he makes people go nutso fucko.
Is there like an artifact that has something to do with that, the king of yellow?
Not that I really remember.
Because that's the part that really fucks me up. Like, how does that make her transcend?
Yeah, again, that's like, I don't know, trying to apply like literal like readings to the events is always going to be hard. I think like my version of how I'm reading it is kind of zooming out from that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not even trying to get like I like what does the artifact represent like at all? Like I know it's supposed to be the fucking what is it, the Sierpinski triangle or whatever?
I don't know. I'm still not settled on the artifact itself, but I can at least tell you I feel like, in line with what I'm saying of breaking out of her programming, the symbolism of the lily, at least like visually, phonetically, Lilith, she's breaking out of her gestalt, like programming of what she had to be and becoming her own person, and that leads to whatever fucking artifact ritual. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I would have to sit with it for another couple of days and like mull it over really hard.
This game is a lot, in a good way. Do you guys want to get down into any like nitty-gritty specifics? Maybe like just something to tone us down from this level of abstraction before we get into rating.
I think the coolest thing that I never picked up on and never would pick on if I didn't look at wikis was that in order to like let you know that nowhere is like rooted in some kind of radiation, they use the words from a 1993 report about fucking nuclear waste handling, and then
Oh my god!
they just put that into the start of nowhere and redact a bunch of the
It's
words.
so sick.
Holy fuck, I can picture that. That's like a legendary thing in the world of safety, right? Is because it's like meant to be read by any living creature. Oh my god, I didn't pick up on that's what that was.
I was going to ask you if you had it, if you interface this because of your profession, because it's like kind of close. So that's why I was like,
yeah,
you found this.
That is like a fucking legendary thing because of the way that they tried to make it so that anyone, past or present or future, will be able to like interpret what it means. Yep. Damn, I didn't pick up on that.
Another thing is that another way that you do that you probably know, Tom, is you put down a bunch of spike fields, and then so in the fake ending you see a big ass fucking spike field, like you're walking through a spike field to get to the Penrose.
That's fucking sick.
Oh god, and all of the surrounding symbolism with the fact that there's literal like radiation leaking on the ship, but also Ariane has cancer, and then she is becoming like a literal cancer cell growth on all of reality. Oh my god.
Yeah, like the only reason I even said the words radiation is because of the one room at the end of the game. And well, I guess they do mention somewhere that like once the like maintenance, once you run out of like tools to fix shit, shit, I can't remember what they said. Now I'm tripping over my fucking words. But
yeah,
basically,
it's something about like
will
spare yourself like the slow death and have your replica take you out. I also, this is like a small thing, but related to Nowhere, because I mean, you guys know me. I love me some Lovecraft, so I think all of Act 2 is fucking sick. I just love the tiny little detail of like you exit south and you enter north. I noticed
that
that
shit
while I
pissed
was
me off.
playing. I loved it.
It
Why?
pissed me off so much. When I forgot this, I forgot that when they removed the map and then started doing that, I got really aggravated. it's like you can't do both, man. Do one or the other. Like I don't know where the fuck I'm going anymore.
But like that's the
My,
point. You're in Nowhere. It's all confusing. It's perfect.
My thing with Nowhere was like once I wrapped my head around how to navigate it, I actually really, really, really liked it. But when I like stopped my play session for the night and came back the next day, I was fucking pissed because I was like, "Where the fuck do I go? I don't remember any of this shit."
So I think I like the idea, but I like when games do this and there's no like there's no like fail state, right? So you'll just like go through a room and then after you do it like 8 times, it puts you where like you're supposed to be, you know? So like you're really confused, but it's not like you were trying to work towards a thing. I think that the fact that the game had you like sit in the confusion and never resolves the confusion was really frustrating to actually play. Thematically, it's really cool. And I think that's kind of the point of the game of like this game does frustrating things because it works towards the theme of what the game's doing, but it's still fucking annoying in the moment.
That's really interesting to me because I like, am I a fucking god gamer? I never felt like I was lost in the Nowhere. So when I realized that I was entering north, exiting south, I thought like it was just the like perfect level of horror tone that I love, where like you can feel that something is wrong, but you don't know what. And that moment of realization when I had that was fucking awesome.
Oh, I knew immediately. Once I went through the east and I came out the fucking south, I was like, God damn it. And then I opened the map and the map wasn't there, and I was like, you could fucking
I mean,
suck
listen,
my
Yeah.
I played too much Final Fantasy VIII. I just thought it was like camera shifts, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, once they took the map away, I was like, "Oh, gotta pay attention to this shit now."
It was really annoying too because of the keypads, right? Like everything in that fucking area is like supposed to like blend together. So like there's all these shapes that look the fucking same.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, where are the keypads? And then you're just wandering around being like, did I miss a keypad? And yeah, like it's supposed to contribute to the confusion, but I thought it was just more frustrating than cool in the moment.
I actually really liked Act 2. I think Act 2 was my favorite of the 3.
I think, man, it's close. They're all really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I like Act 3 just because I think the puzzle is the coolest, even though they dumb it down to baby.
Yeah.
I think
Like literally
Act
just if that journal was in a different room, that's all they needed to do.
I mean, just split it up and put it all over the place, including at the beginning of the game, or I don't
I
know.
don't know if they should have done that because they already did that with the fucking tarot cards. And I mean, I guess they could have put a journal entry in like each of the rooms with the tarot cards and like mixed them up or whatever. But I don't know. I felt like that would have been maybe a little too much. But Act 3, I feel like Act 3 is kind of a step down from the rest because it kind of just pissed me off more than I felt like I was comfortable with. Like not even with like the puzzles or the solutions, but just that is where the inventory management really rears its ugly head the
Oh,
most,
yeah.
and it's got the most annoying ass fucking rooms to navigate by far.
Specifically with that, even though I like it again thematically, but the way it starts cutting off rooms and like you lose your shortest access to get to certain areas. Oh, that there. Okay, there was one time I got to the room with the moon card. My inventory was full. Had to run a fucking mile back to the safe room. I forgot that I didn't pick up the moon card, so I get to the end and I'm like, wait, there's only 5 pages. I only have 5 tarot cards. What's going on here? And I had to fucking look up what the 6th one was because I forgot to go back and pick it up. And by that time, all the fucking rooms are cut off, so I had to go the longest way around. That shit was awful, but it was memorable. So there.
And on the flip side of that, I think the coolest puzzle in the game is the butterfly one, because it's kind of like the closest thing to like a Llama Lana puzzle because it's not like beating the shit out of you with it, but it's still like it's close.
Yeah, I think that was probably my favorite puzzle. I guess, like all things considered.
I
The
also really
Paraidola
like
one?
what's that?
You said the butterfly one? The Paraidola?
Mm-hmm.
And then also the fact that when you walk up to the safe and it says Elster, I think is a really nice touch, as if it's
I guess-
waiting for you.
Go
Sorry,
ahead, Ben.
Ben.
When it comes to favorite puzzle, I guess I do have something positive to say about this game. I liked the puzzle where you had to create your own card, like from the blank card. You had to like use
Oh, yeah.
the inspect and like find the pattern that you needed to replicate. So that's
Yep.
like my favorite puzzle in the game.
I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
definitely the
I-
best mechanical puzzle for sure.
I like that one and the lockpicking one quite a bit.
The
lockpicking
lockpicking one
one's
was
weird.
yeah, that one was pissing me off because I didn't like realize what was happening for
Yeah,
like 10
It
minutes.
takes
and-
10 minutes.
Yeah, no, it took me way too long. And then once I realized what was going on, I was like, oh, this is really fucking easy.
That felt like most of them though. I don't know. They just felt really like unique to me, and I like them.
Yeah, they were
Um,
definitely unique. I do agree with that.
I think I used that mod I used to reduce the shit broke the gas puzzle or whatever because like multiple like the up and down light would be on at the same time and I was just like I don't think this puzzle works right, so that literally broke for me. But then the fuse puzzle I solved like by accident basically.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I also kind of did that. I figured out how it was supposed to work.
Yeah.
Like there was like multipliers for the numbers or whatever.
And
But
the second thing I flipped solved it.
yeah, by the time I had figured out what was going on, I just like accidentally clicked the right like assortment to solve it. I think the only bad puzzle, or like the only puzzle I thought was like way weaker than the rest. No, it's just bad. Was
Don't you say the water one?
No.
Okay,
I like the
good.
water. I like the water one, even though that was another example where they just give you the fucking answer for some reason.
Yeah, that shit was annoying. That was literally the answer.
Yeah, it was just straight up the instructions to solve it. I thought that was kind of weird, but no, it's the one to get the astrolabe. I don't even know how to describe it. Where you like just have to press the four
Yeah. You have
directions.
to do the solar system. Yeah.
Yeah, weak ass puzzle.
Yeah.
Total shit.
I agree. That one did definitely really suck. I think it had the bones to be really cool, like from like a learning about the universe perspective, but it just ended up being an annoyance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that's like what I keep getting back to. This puzzle or this game just needed a puzzle like what Blueprints does, where like you need to understand each nation, the flag of each nation,
I mean, good
like, the name
luck.
of each nation.
Wait,
whatever.
wait.
Like I'm not
wait.
asking it to go that deep, but you know what I
I think you guys are thinking of the wrong puzzle. I think you guys are thinking of the actual puzzle on the astrolabe, I think, where you have to like align the planets in the right sequence.
Oh yeah,
the
what are
right-
you thinking?
I'm talking about the one that actually gives you the astrolabe, where you just have to like it's like a ice block puzzle. Yeah, it's so
Oh,
bad
yeah,
you
with
guys
the
don't
book.
even remember
Yeah,
it.
with the book. Yeah.
With the book?
Oh, is
I
that the
still
thing where
don't
you have to
remember.
like slide that like hard drive looking
Yes,
thing? Yeah, that
yes.
thing was dog shit.
Oh,
Yeah. So
I don't even
bad
know
you
how I
guys don't
solved-
even remember it. I told you.
I honestly, I like solved that by accident because I was just trying to figure out the controls,
Yep.
and then I put myself in a way that I thought that I was stuck, and then once I got unstuck, it was solved, and I was like, oh, cool.
Yep. Same here. I like I thought you had to move it to the bottom left where the slot is.
Yeah,
and
me
then
and Seth
that
did the
wasn't
same
it. So I
thing.
just kept sliding it around. And I was like, oh, cool. The book is now in my hand
Yeah.
for some reason.
Me and Seth did the exact same thing. That's hilarious. I solved almost all the puzzles by accident. The water one I didn't. The water one was fucking
Ooh.
sick. And then yeah,
My
the gas one I couldn't solve because it was broken.
My favorite puzzle, I don't even know why, but my favorite puzzle was definitely the radio tower one. I thought that one was fucking awesome.
That was super cool.
Yeah,
Everything
I
around
like
the
that.
magpie signal I fucking love. Like I mentioned this in the channel, but I don't know if you saw or I guess you watched that video with the 3-note oddity being literally just what it is.
Mhm.
Yeah, I thought that was super fucking cool.
Yeah, I was like aware of like the magpie signal like as a concept and what it was, but like I said, I did not know that it just straight up took the whole thing basically.
Even the numbers, like that part I thought that at least like they did or something, but no, they just took that and then made it work in the context of the game.
Yeah, no.
By the way, you need to use those numbers to get that spectrogram for the artifact ending. That's like part of it.
Okay, because I was like sitting there thinking like when you told me that the numbers were the same, I was like, God damn, I must just be like fucking stupid as hell because I was like sitting there the entire time looking at those numbers. Probably the majority of my screenshots are those numbers.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
I
if
was
you
like
wanted
trying
to
to
go for
figure
the
out what they
artifact
are.
ending, then you probably would have gotten it. But
Yeah,
good
like
luck.
I screenshotted so many fucking like sequences of numbers from the magpie signal, thinking it was gonna like come up later or something. I guess it
Technically
does,
does.
just not in the
Yeah.
way that I thought.
Exactly. And again, I don't know how you would think to take those frequencies and put them through a spectrogram and then find those images in the game and then play the frequency there. Like it's fucking hard.
I got a question for you guys.
Yeah.
What was your favorite like document?
I like the one about like how you get the rings, the order of the rings.
That's a good one, yeah.
I really liked all of Ariane's logs in the ship for story reasons. This is like kind of a personal thing that I might bring up in my rating, but I really liked learning the word peridola. That's a good one.
Oh yeah.
I have two favorites.
What are they?
Say 'em.
I screenshotted them. I'm pasting them. Hang on. All right. I really like the one that says, "It calls me in a sea of flesh. We will become one, but I can never go back to being me." Because I feel like that was a point where I really started to like understand the story, and that whole both of those I believe are on like first person segments on the beach, but they're different segments. Um, and that the it calls me in a sea of flesh one happens first, and that's where I kind of like started piecing things together a little bit. And then the other one I posted is also on a beach where it just says kill me, kill me, kill me, kill me, kill me, kill me over and over and over
Classic.
again. And then you skip to the next one and it's just the same thing repeated even more. And that's on the beach scene. I believe it's between Act 2 and 3, which I think that's right. It's somewhere in that range. But yeah, that was another point where I was like, oh, that's probably what this fucking promises, huh? Because I recognized that all of these notes were from Ariane, and yeah, I just fucking loved both of those because they like really gave me a like better, broader understanding of what was going on, and I think they're nice and poetic and cool.
Yeah.
I felt like stuff like those notes really like it called back to my love for Lovecraft, but it didn't feel so like it felt like there's so many different inspirations for this game and Lovecraft is one of them, but at the same time it makes itself so meaningfully different from all of them and coalesces all of them into this beautiful little thing, and I love it.
What I like is that there's like a pyramid of inspirations, right? So like this game, it calls out 3 books in the credits, right? It calls out The Festival by Lovecraft, The King in Yellow by Robert Chambers, and The Inhabitant of Carcosa by Stephen Bierce or Ambrose Bierce. And I think it's really cool that traces a direct lineage where this game you can trace to Lovecraft. Lovecraft you can directly trace to um, uh, Robert Chambers, King in Yellow, in which you can directly trace to the inhabitant of Carcosa. Like there's literally a line where each of them are like referencing each other's work.
Yeah.
Like directly, like by name even. Through like more than 150 years apart, there's like this super long lineage of basically Carcosa, King in Yellow shit. And I think that's really cool.
I agree.
It's fucking awesome.
I
Like-
just really like just to call it out again, like the use of the game's like real world shit, but then twisting it for like the world itself. So it's kind of like parallels to our universe. I think it's just super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's almost like the opposite of some of our criticisms of Hades 2, where like it's taking things that have already been like written or applied in the real world, but then using it to actually build their own world instead of relying on it over much. Like I didn't need to know anything about the magpie signal in order for it to be like an interesting and evocative thing in this game. It worked by itself, and then the extra context also works. Same thing. With the painting of, I think it's called the island. Like, I mean, I was gonna be like super impressed, like easy fucking 10 out of 10 with these developers if they made like that painting and all of the like substrates of it that flash by. Obviously they didn't, but like just all these, like I said, all these inspirations just fucking ooze through, and it's a meaningful story. It's great.
Yeah, I really, 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 really love when like works can clearly borrow from other artists, especially when they borrow from artists in different mediums like this game does, and use that in order to facilitate like carving out its own unique identity and its own unique spin in a way that like utilizes those works of art or retranslates those works of art without just like kind of just doing the Who's Lila, right? Where all they're doing is just stealing rather than like reinterpreting or retranslating.
Yeah.
They're wearing their inspiration on their face, but they are also again establishing something unique and clearly their own.
Yeah, it's like when someone looks at a painting and you look at the island and it's evocative of death and all these other things, and like anyone looking at that painting can interpret it in whatever way they want, but like this game just felt like the developers had all these inspirations from all these different pieces of media and like earnest ways that they were able to evoke in the creation of this game, and I think that's a very, very rare thing to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's like the incredible thing about this game is that it takes on the qualities of a painting, right? Where like you can have 10 different people look at one painting and those 10 different people might come away with it with a totally different experience and a totally different interpretation. And I think that this game is maybe one of like the best examples of doing that in video games that I am aware of. I actually talk about that a little bit in my final rating, so I guess I'll shut the fuck up. But yeah, this game does a really good job of doing that.
I do think, unless you guys have any closing bits, we should move on to ratings. I think it's time that we are actually able to get Ben back in here.
I could not relate at all to anything you guys just said. Like, nah.
And hit us with your negative score, brother. Give us that rating.
All right. This game made me update my heuristic, or rather, it made me add to it. If I see the word cozy, I think boring. If I see the word themes, I think uninstall. Because this game would have been a 1 out of 10 if it didn't have the debug console. I would not have beaten it, even for Tash. I don't give a fuck. It would not have been beaten without the cheats. There were some good things about the game. Visually, it was very stunning, and it played pretty well. Craftsmanship was there. There weren't really any bugs. So for that, I give it a 4 out of 10. Because, yeah, that's
You're
just
gonna be
what
lower
it is for me.
after hearing you talk about it.
Jesus.
Yeah. Damn it!
It was originally a 6,
Holy
but I
moly.
lowered it.
You should have kept it
during
at
this
a 6, you
discussion.
bitch. I would have been right.
No, talking about this game put me in such a bad fucking mood. Playing this game put me in a bad fucking mood. I remember right after I beat it, I immediately uninstalled it and I played Honkai Star Rail for a palate cleanser. And to put that into perspective, playing through the story of Honkai Star Rail this weekend was like 20 hours of cutscenes and 20 minutes of combat. It was physically agonizing to experience, and I use that as a palate cleanser.
I can't
this
wait.
Fucking
I
steaming
can't wait to
turd.
make you play more like narratively complex games. It fills me with joy.
There's not a
I'm
lot
gonna
of
rate
games
them the
that kinda
same.
do it like this one though.
I have a feeling the next game might, which is fun.
No.
Not to this level, not to this level. But
I mean,
in
I'm like
terms
almost
of
2 hours into it, and that game is much more like
Okay.
can relate with shit compared to this game.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, I haven't even touched it yet. I just had a feeling that there would be some postmodern anti-bin
There's gonna be things like
shit,
that, but he's not
shit
gonna
for people that don't read books.
he's not gonna hate it more than he hated this game because the game's not as like obtuse as this one is.
Yeah.
Well, Thomas, hit us.
Yeah, this game is a fucking true piece of work. The gameplay has some warts. There's aspects of it that I don't like because of the inherited genetic code of games and genres I never liked at all to begin with. Like, I would say it works here significantly better for me than something like older Resident Evil games or Silent Hill games, but there's still these aspects of unnecessary tedium that's hand waved away as something that's there to build tension, but I call bullshit. It just sucks. Um, I will say I have a reputation for talking shit about games that try to emulate like the low poly PlayStation 1 look. But for here, this might be the first game in like the modern day that actually worked for me. Part of me thinks it might just be because the color palette was so strict and the game is so dark that it obfuscates a lot of the stuff that I normally really find unpleasant about the way that these games kind of look. But the cutscenes look fucking outstanding. The animations are outstanding. I guess like the only thing I came away with the visuals of this game is why does no one have any fucking feet? But the narrative is where the real beast inside of this game lives. So I wrote my final rating diatribe before we met, but I can guarantee you that whatever it is that we discussed on here prior to meeting is by no means like the quote unquote true or literal way that the story or narrative was meant to be interpreted. This narrative is just a fucking complex cavalcade of inspirations drawn from a litany of sources that create this neural network whose myelin sheath is so fucking thick that it dares you to apply some form of literal interpretation to it because you just can't fucking do it. But the thing that I also find beautiful about this game is that despite the complex web that it weaves, it's still highly approachable. Like, I already mentioned these earlier. Like, there's a reason why these books were front of mind. Like, this is not Infinite Jest or Gravity's Rainbow or Finnegan's Wake or any other number of works that are like impenetrable almost by design. There's a tremendous number of ways that you could try to tackle what you think and what you want to apply to this narrative. Even though it still evades any sort of like objective capital T truth to it all, it's still something that I think anyone who actually has a modicum of interest in like stretching the limits of their fucking reading comprehension will get something out of this game. If you just like disengage and just want things spoon fed to you like a fucking toddler sitting at their high chair, then this
Yes.
game is not for you.
Yes.
But
Yes.
overall, this game might be one of my favorites that we've tashed so far. Like of the games that were like new to me, not counting games that I was replaying or whatever. This thing is a real fucking outstanding piece of narrative work. Like hats off, and it is incredibly hard for me to believe that this game was only made by 2 fucking people. 9 out of 10.
I thought it was going to be higher than a 9.
Yeah, me too.
That was a lot of
What did
gush.
you give Thousand X Resist?
That's a good question. I didn't go into it here, but I actually think that Thousand X Resist and this game have an unnaturally high number of parallels in their narrative. To
Yeah.
the point it's kind of funny.
Yeah, really.
Let's see, what did I give Thousand X Resist? Because those games do kind of sit next to each other in my head. 9.5.
Yeah,
I would
okay.
actually agree that I would rate this game a little bit lower than Thousand X Resist, even though I like the narrative of this game better. Playing Thousand X Resist was more fun, just because it didn't have like even though there was less to it, like the puzzles of this game were a lot of fun and better than anything in a Thousand X Resist. Thousand X Resist didn't have a fucking shitty inventory system that pissed me off. So
Yeah, it didn't get in its own way.
I think that's wild. I actually think I actually enjoyed playing this game more than 1KXR.
I mean, I can respect that because like 1KXR doesn't have that much meat on its bones. This game definitely does. The problem is some of the meat's rancid.
Jordan?
Yeah, I keep like waffling on like a specific number because it's weird because like I don't really like the gameplay and I don't like that the puzzles are like dumbed down. Like the gameplay basically like serves the narrative. And like I wish the puzzles were a lot more like intense and like made you basically I wish they were like gatekeeping for the game. Like if so like I think that would resolve some of Ben's issues with the game. If the game like made you know what was going on, then I think that could, or you just go fuck this, I'm uninstalling.
That by itself would not be good enough. It's actually a spectrum. It's a spectrum of how hard I have to work to understand it and what the payoff is. If the payoff is godlike, I will do the homework. If the payoff is shit, then the game better not ask a lot of me.
Sure.
And it failed spectacularly.
Yeah, I think if
I
it
can't
found a
describe
way
it any other way.
to hook you, then I think maybe you would like the payoff better. But like, yeah, like to what you're getting at, you get the payoff and then you have to understand why it's a payoff. So I understand exactly like why you don't like it for sure. But yeah, for me, like another thing was like that I mentioned with the music, like And a lot of the games that I think are like 10 out of 10s usually have like tearjerker moments, and like whenever then you go back to like a song that happened during that part, you're always like, "Fuck, this is tough to listen to." But like this game, like we already talked about it, but like it doesn't really line those things up, in that it has good music, but I don't think it uses it in a super powerful emotional way. Um, yeah, but I think like the narrative of this game is super good, and like the shining part of the game, and like there's no issues. I have no issues with like the narrative or the story or the world building or the setting. I think that that's where it excels, but I think that there's definitely a lot to be desired on the gameplay front specifically. So for me, it's a 8.5.
Ooh, I think I nailed it. Hell yeah.
Nice.
All right, I'll take my 1 point.
Did you like it more having played it a second time?
I like it more because there's more information to look around. When I beat it the first time, literally it would have had to be being like to go in like a Discord and talk to all the other people that beat it. And I was like, I'll just watch a YouTube video later. And then I never did. And then like I forgot most of the game because I beat it in like a day and a half. So my first play didn't really influence my second one that much, other than I definitely felt around this. I like the feelings of when I finished the game felt around the same, but then this time I got to actually like explore what was going on and appreciate it a little bit more. But like without that, it'd be like around like probably a 7.
Yeah, I think you said a lot of interesting stuff there, actually. And I'm still like on this quest to figure out what it is that like draws the line for you guys with these narrative canvases. I know you answered that question earlier, but I drink too much wine. And I can't fucking remember what you said.
The easy answer is just this game is interesting, and those games are not.
Yeah, but that's like vague, right? Like
I know. That's the easy answer.
I think here's my interpretation / projection. You guys will put the work into the canvas if there is some kind of emotional anchor. Doesn't matter what it is. There just has to be something there. I think for Ben, the fucking cable snapped on the way to the ocean floor, so there was just no hope ever. Whereas I think the emotional anchor for like you in this game was probably some of that like mystery box, like Lost style J.J. Abrams
Yeah.
type shit, right? And then as that mystery unfolded, then you started caring about the characters a little more as you learn more, and it's not something like Edith Finch, where it just does a really shit job of being both a mystery and of being this like character expose sort of thing. That's my read on it.
I could definitely say specifically for me, like definitely more like the more lore that you pack in and then don't tell me, but like it's there and you have to figure it out versus just guess. Like Who's Lila is kind of more just like a guess almost of like just make it up. Where this game is like everything's there, you just have to piece things together and really like find everything and understand the influences, and then like people can like talk about that versus just be like, here's what I think happened, and then you just talk about nothing for 2 hours basically.
And that's the interesting thing to me is that I actually disagree with that because I actually think that while there are definitely like ways to interpret objectively some things that happen in this game, it really does resist any kind of like literal translation, literal interpretation, like much more so than I think any of the games we've played, right? Like even Edith Finch. Edith Finch tells you straight up what happens at every point in that game. Like it doesn't really.
I liked Edith Finch better than this game.
That's cringe.
Yeah, so for me, it's literally just like the lore and the details of the lore specifically. Like the deeper the world, like this feels like a world. Like it literally just feels like we're watching a world that is like there and exists, and all the details are there, and then you just have to figure them out. Whose Lila feels like a story that someone told me and just fucking picked the details to fucking tell me, and then just held the rest out.
Yeah, that's because that guy just fucking wrote a bunch of shit into Chat GPT
Yeah.
and said, "Write this like David Lynch."
So like the game that I like resonate almost the most narratively is fucking like Void Stranger, because of like there's so much shit in that game and it's all over the fucking place and you have to piece everything together. So like that's kind of the difference for me. If it's telling you like extrapolate information and then just figure things out, like Who's Lila? Like Who's Lila doesn't really have shit that's like hidden anywhere. It's just kind of like, here's like a concept. What do you think of the concept? Where this game is like, what's going on? What does this mean? What does that mean? What is this? What is that? That's the shit that I like.
All right, duly noted.
Is it my turn?
It's your turn.
I've been so obscenely curious what you guys thought my score of this game would be going into this, and I'm sorry that I didn't write more in the Discord chat. I was just too busy thinking and researching and listening to the fucking videos for the third time in order to actually have an understanding of this game. I really like media that feels like it's speaking to me, and that sounds gay as hell, but I do mean it like quite literally. uh I haven't felt like a game was talking to me directly since I watched Maniac, uh, which I
Can I
don't think.
interject? What about Hello
Sure.
Charlotte, where you thought it was
Hello,
literally
Charlotte.
talking to you?
Well, no. Maybe if Elster's name was Seth, it would be different.
Yeah, sorry. Keep going.
Um, yeah, like Maniac is a Netflix show, Jonah Hill, Emma Stone, that's like another deep dive into like the psychology of people and like why they like match and like friends, blah blah blah. I'm not going to go into it, but the point of it is that there were like characters and scenes in that show that felt like they were describing things or describing things that I experience in ways that I could never think of how to describe them. This game did that the exact same way with two things that were concepts, but I just didn't know until I had a game put them in front of me. And those two concepts were synchronicity and para idola. I like those are just things that I experience regularly of like seeing patterns in nothing and feeling like a schizophrenic sometime that I feel like I have to fight against sometimes, and it's just really nice to play a game that feels like it understands that side of me and can like help me like verbalize it in its own unique narrative and setting. All of that is gay as hell, but it's there. Like Thomas said, this game has some warts. Like Ben said, there's some parts of this game that are just completely ludicrously postmodern, stupid, fucking abstract bullshit. But abstract isn't necessarily bad. Abstract can be good. I am a fervent defender of the last season of Lost. Uh, I fucking love shit
Cringe.
when it has a point that it's trying to make. And I don't know if we've done any other game for Tash. I don't think we have. Maybe Baldur's Gate 3 that felt like it had this much love poured into it. Like Thomas said, I think that it is an absolute fucking feat of fucking human achievement that two people made this game. That is absolutely absurd to me. I like this game. Um, I don't know if I like playing this game more than Clair Obscur, but I think that the narrative is actually better than Clair Obscur, and I will fight on that hill. I think that the only other game that I played that has a narrative as cohesive as this is Outer Wilds. Therefore, I'm gonna put it probably in my top 5 games and give it a 10 out of 10.
Damn, that's based. I did not think you were gonna go that high.
Yeah, I thought the gameplay
I didn't
was gonna land you where I was. I thought you were gonna really, really like the narrative, but the gameplay was gonna suck too much.
I gotta say, it started off really weak when I lost like an hour of save because
Yeah,
it
that
does that
too.
fucking bullshit. But
Yeah.
then I remembered that one of my other 10 out of 10 games does the same thing with Nier Automata, and that game is way worse with that shit. So I had to give that some leeway. And I don't know, all of the parts that I disliked about the gameplay in this game eventually wore off. And I don't know, I might play this game again.
So I'm gonna say something that I think is important, which is I don't think that when you are interpreting like the messaging and the themes and the concepts and the just overall like what a game is and what it's about should be something that feels gay. In fact, I think it's gay to say that that's gay because what I think is important, especially in art that is abstracted to the degree that this one is that it's not something that you should just like consume and then like hold your dick in your hand as you think about Carl Jung and like the way that the psychology of this game applies academically. What's important and why I think I like doing this stuff or like these sort of narrative exercises at all is because what's important is taking those readings, taking those concepts, taking those themes, and then circling them around back into your own life and thinking about the ways that how the narrative, how the art, how the game, how the whatever explores it in such a way that you can apply it to your own like lived experience. And like thinking back on it, I think that is like personally like one of the reasons for me that like Hello Charlotte wasn't like a 10 out of 10 series for me is because I was just really far away from the lived experience of what that game is and what its themes are portraying, that like that part of it was really hard for me to attach it myself to. But with this game, that's not true. There's a lot of things in this game that I think the average person can read into and apply to their own life in order to like further their depth of understanding of who they are as people and where they are in the world. And that's why I will always push back on the idea that trying to like interpret the themes and the narrative of a game is like gay postmodern cringe, because I think it's a tool for understanding yourself as a person. And when I can walk away from a game like this understanding myself better than when I started, it's automatically going to be like an important facet of my life, because it's just going to take the circle of my lived experience and poke a hole in it and make the radius that much bigger. And that's why no one should ever say it's gay to read into the themes of a game, because that shit's important.
I wanted to comment on that because this game did not make me cry. Clair Obscur did, but I'm rating this game higher than Clair Obscur. Um, and I think one reason for that is that, well, number one, as I was like thinking about the game today and just like uh, considering everything after I actually had understanding of everything, I like was tearing up a little bit, and I fucking might cry tonight. I don't know as I'm thinking about this game, but what I can tell you, without a doubt, if someone lost a partner that they had, or like a family member or something that they had to like pull the plug on, or like had cancer or something like that,
Damn.
this game would fucking destroy them.
Oh
They
yeah.
would not survive. They would be dead.
Yeah,
They would die of dehydration.
you're honestly just an anti-intellectual fuck up if you can't figure out how this game could like emotionally resonate with people.
Damn, I got.
I know.
Yeah, that's a good call out though, Seth. You saying that gave me fucking goosebumps.
Yeah, like seriously, put yourself in the shoes of someone that went through that shit, and
Oh yeah.
you will think of the ending very differently, I think.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah, again, like there's just a myriad of ways you could read into this game and apply it
Damn, can I
to
change my
who you are.
That was a really good point by Seth.
That's, I mean, again though, like that's the type of shit that I think you need to do with games like this, is figure out how they can like broadly apply to like people emotionally. Like, does anything in this game apply to my life like personally, individually, on like a granular level? No, what the fuck? But I have this nasty E word, empathy, which will like make it so that I can see how this might affect other people, and the byproduct of that is that it allows it to affect me as well, which is why shit like this and shit like Hello Charlotte like mean a lot to me as I like play them or read them or whatever.
I mean, it's not like I don't understand that people love this game, and I don't. It's not like I don't understand why. I just don't.
I mean, I think it's okay to like grade it based off of your own experiences.
Oh yeah, I don't give a shit if you hate this game. Everyone's free to hate whatever the fuck they want to hate. It's just a matter of like, I don't know. I think it's really fucking cringe to look down on people that want to like read into something from a more like outside of the game perspective and apply some sort of, I don't know, psychological, philosophical, academic, whatever reading into it.
Thomas, you want to close us out with announcement for the next game?
Sure. I picked the game off. I didn't realize I was going to have to do an outro because I haven't actually picked a game in about 2 months, I think. So it is a remake of a old, I believe, maybe could be wrong, RPG Maker game from the late 2000s. Kind of a cult classic. Has a soundtrack that is legendary within the biz. And like I said, remake just came out, I think, this past August, and I had never played it before, even though I've heard many good things. So we will be playing the game off.
Bye.